Hello and welcome to the film session at the ISNTD Festival, which is our annual event here at the International Society for Neglected Tropical Diseases, where we look at all sorts of exciting, innovative and varied forms of creative approaches to neglected tropical diseases and global health more generally. Every year we look forward to discovering the incredible and amazing films that have come together over the last 12 months. And so I'm really excited for this session today. We're going to be looking at a diverse range of films, all kind of centered around this approach to making tropical diseases, but also some very complex public health challenges much more accessible to a wide variety of audiences. So it's an absolute pleasure to welcome today our speakers who'll be taking us through quite an amazing journey, really, across diseases, across regions, and across issues in global health. And so I'm sure the audience will join me in welcoming very warmly, top of my screen, Calum Goodwin. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. Hi, Calum.
Hi, thank you very much.
Calum, you're joining us from Encephalitis International. You'll be talking to us about the film Shot in the Arm, looking at vaccine hesitancy. And then really pleased to welcome Lydia Trippler. Welcome, Lydia. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Hi, you're joining us from the Swiss TPH, and it's also an absolute honor to share that you're one of our ISNTD Cameron Rafiq Science Communication interns. So thank you for joining us today. We have on screen also Ilan Moss. Hi, Ilan.
Hi.
Hi, joining us from the DNDi, the Drugs for Neglected Diseases Initiative. And also joining us to share a wonderful film, Murchana, Roychoudhury. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi,
happy to be here.
Thank you. You are representing the Barcelona Institute for Global Health, IS Global, with a film called Proyecto, Irene y la ruta de la salud. So a very packed session, really exciting, and very pleased to welcome everyone. If you are in the audience, please remember to say hi in the chat. Tell us where you're tuning in from, maybe what diseases you work on, or just any questions and comments you might have for speakers as the session unfolds. But without any further delay, let's discover the films. I'll hand over to you as our first speaker, Calum, and welcome, and we can't wait to find out more about Shot in the Arm.
So I will just briefly give an introduction to the film, and then I know Marianne is going to kindly play the trailer. I work for Encephalitis International. I'm hoping some of you on the call may be familiar with us. We are a global non-profit based largely in the UK, but we support the encephalitis community across the world. And we do so we're a patient organisation. We provide support and information for people affected by the condition in the formats that you can see here, through information guides and other forms of information as well for medical professionals too. So encephalitis is either an infectious or a autoimmune condition. And on the infectious side, many types of encephalitis can be vaccine preventable. So we are focusing our efforts for World Immunisation Week, which starts today for the following 7 days. And we're focusing on our efforts on different types of infectious diseases that can cause encephalitis that are vaccine preventable. And they can include things such as Japanese encephalitis, tick-borne encephalitis, but also viruses that you may not be aware that could cause encephalitis, including COVID-19, the influenza virus, measles, to name just a few there. So as part of that, the work of the Encephalitis International is backed by a scientific advisory panel, and many of them alerted us to the opportunity of a film that was called A Shot in the Arm, which has been doing private screenings across the US. So A Shot in the Arm is a documentary film that was produced during the COVID-19 pandemic and led by Scott Hamilton Kennedy, who is an Academy Award nominee for this film. And you can see some of the reviews it's had on the bottom here. So Kennedy was first kind of exploring the global measles epidemic and was filming with kind of top health authorities in the US. but also interestingly was working with anti-vaccine activists as well, like Robert Kennedy and Andrew Wakefield, who I'm sure some of you will be familiar with, who were very much leading the anti-vax movement and kind of targeting parents and caregivers who were focusing on vaccines for their children and loved ones. So it kind of had this two ends of the sword, if you like, looking at public health officials who are very much pushing the vaccine agenda, but also looking at the anti-vaccine movement as well. And then suddenly, as everyone on the call will be familiar with, we experienced the COVID-19 pandemic around a year after they started filming this documentary on measles. And of course, they kind of shifted the attention away from measles more towards how COVID-19 had shifted people's opinions on vaccines and kind of exploring the longer term impact of vaccine hesitancy and some of the barriers that communities are now facing to accessing vaccines. So this film is ultimately trying to answer the question that you can see at the bottom of the screen here, which is, can we replace cynicism of vaccines with healthy curiosity and bridge the political divides that make us sick? So Encephalitis International is doing an exclusive screening of this film in tomorrow, even in London, in the UK. For anyone here who's on this call who may like to join, I'll pop my email address into the chat box after we share with you the short trailer for this film. So at the minute, it is only available either by attending our film screening tomorrow, sorry for the terribly late notice, and it is available for some private screenings in the US, and I'm sure it will become publicly available soon. So just wanted to flag this is a really interesting documentary film that explores vaccine hesitancy in post-pandemic world. And I'll hand over to Marianne to share the trailer for it now.
In 2019, I started working on a documentary about the rising rate of measles.
Why is this happening?
Because people are choosing not to vaccinate their children.
And how some were trying to politicize science.
Anybody who tells you, trust me on the science, you shouldn't trust them.
Our citizens are part of a medical experiment you are putting on them.
It is our children that have been affected.
They believe what they're saying. Unfortunately, it's a false belief, and their anger is directed in the wrong place.
I watched reports that measles is deadly. I think we have to question what we call deadly. If Ebola is sweeping the country, talk to me then.
I had no idea what was coming next. Lockdown day one. From the beginning of COVID, our family struggled to make sense of what was going on.
I did think that the arrival of COVID would be the end of the anti-science world.
Were you right?
I was never so wrong in my life.
The vaccine itself is going to kill far more people.
Conspiracy theorists play into distrust. Don't trust the experts. Don't trust scientists.
It's going to be a disaster for mankind.
I absolutely see the pandemic as an opportunity.
On January 6th, these are the anti-vaxxers.
You've been sold a lie.
Dell is selling a lie, and he's selling it hard, and we're just offering the truth.
Science isn't political. At least it shouldn't be. Vaccines have allowed us to live 30 years longer than we did 100 years ago. That's what vaccines can do.
This is Vax Talk, the podcast for people who prefer not to get polio.
Counter disinformation in a compassionate way. We have to get good information out there.
You were given a broken and beautiful world. You will take this world in your hands and make it less broken and more beautiful.
Once the truth doesn't matter, then it's not a democracy anymore.
Well, thank you very much, Calum, for introducing that film, and both interesting and alarming that the discourse continues to be very relevant, and in fact, more so with an election year coming up in the US. So this is an amazing film, really timely. It's been wonderful to have you on the call. I know you have to return and attend to some matters. If there are any questions in the audience for Calum, please, by all means, post them in the chat now. Or if you're in London and you're free tomorrow evening, absolutely come and join this this screening. Ilan Moss wrote, "Wow, that looks fantastic. I think MSF USA or DNDi would definitely like to screen this." And Denise Van Wissen also says bravo and clap emoji. So yeah, a very stunning film to kickstart this session. So thank you for that, Calum. And we hope to be in touch very soon. I hope to see you tomorrow evening. So following from this wonderful first film, I'd like to welcome to the stage, or I'll hand over the microphone to Lydia Trippler. Lydia, you returned quite recently from a trip to Zanzibar, where you were working for some time on the Schisto Break project, and as well as developing a film around this project and program to control schistosomiasis. So I'll hand over to you. I haven't seen any of the film is not ready yet, so this is really, really hot off the press, and you are, we're honored and delighted you are treating us to some previews of the film. So thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Marianne, for the introduction. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Then I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see my slides?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Lydia Trippler. I'm a postdoc at the Swiss CPH in Basel. And today I'd like to speak about our Kichocho film, a film made in Pemba, for Pemba, which is an island in Tanzania, and Kichocho is the Swahili word for schisto. These are the Zanzibar Islands that are located at the east coast of Tanzania, and the northern one of which is Pemba, where the film was made. Pemba has a very long history of schistosomiasis interventions and schistosomiasis prevalence assessments. And as you can see, the nowadays prevalence is very low, which is mainly due to these very many years of interventions, part of which were behavior change interventions, especially over the last decade, as part of the Zanzibar Elimination for Schistosomiasis Transmission Study, and also in the last 4 years during our Schisto Break study. And those behavior change interventions included school outreach days, teacher trainings, construction of washing platforms, and community meetings. And those community meetings were, on the one hand, a discussion with the community and also showing a video. And this video was made during the already named CESS project under the lead of Bobby Person. And it's a fantastic video that we've been using a lot, which is a cut together of photos and then someone from the off explaining what's going on. And it's a bit of in a documentary style. And then one of our team members, our beloved Ulfat, who's a behavior change expert and who is also going to present tomorrow at ISNTD Connect about our behavior change interventions, she had the idea of, can we not make a new movie where we tell a story that we can then show in the community? So we were discussing it and then said, okay, let's try to make a movie with the aim to increase knowledge, attitude, and practices regarding schisto, and also see whether it can impact the readiness of community members to be involved in interventions. So we did this in 3 steps. The first one was assessing wishes and perceptions in the communities regarding a movie, which was part of a cross-sectional survey in our Schisto Break project. The second one was making the movie. And the third one is soon, hopefully, to assess the impact on the movie in the communities. And since the third step is not done yet, I'm going to focus today on the first 2. So we asked around 800 people in the community, are you generally interested in watching a movie about schisto? And luckily, the vast majority said yes, so we could move on. And we also asked them, what is the maximum time that you would like to watch And a lot of people said they are happy to watch it quite long, half an hour, even more. We eventually went for around 15 minutes, which would then also include all those who would be willing to also watch it longer. We asked, and this was a multiple choice question, what kind of content would you be interested in? And many people said actually everything. Others were more specific and said transmission, symptoms, complications, and so on. And we also asked where they would like to watch the movie. This question was asked a bit so we would know whether we would make a movie for a little screen, like a smartphone, or whether we would show it big on a TV or in a screen in a community meeting, for example. The majority said community meeting or TV. So to summarize this, the majority said, yes, we would like to watch a movie. We went for around 15 minutes as an aim for length. We tried to cover a lot of different topics in the movie, and we aimed for a movie that would be shown on a big screen rather than on a smartphone. So the story of the movie is that the main character, our star, is a local boy called Shukuru. Well, in the movie, he's called Shukuru. And Shukuru really likes to play in water bodies with his friends. And this is where he then gets infected. And weeks later, he gets tested and treated in his school, and also takes part in a school outreach day where he learns a lot about schisto. And by the end of the movie, he's going home and tells his mom what he has learned and how they could contribute to interrupt the life cycle. We are still in the editing phase of the movie, but I brought you 3 clips that hopefully Marianne will share with us. They are all in Swahili, but I think they are very easy to understand. So the first one is showing Shukuru playing in a water body with his friends, and you also see the mother of him using the same water to wash clothes. In the second clip, you see him, again, Shukuru, in the school, how he gives urine samples to Ulfat, the one who had the whole idea for the movie, and how his urine is very red. And the third clip shows him being part of a school outreach day, and they're playing tug of war, and he's in the losing team. And that's why he has to answer questions about schisto, for example, where can you get infected and what are typical symptoms. And then by the end of the third clip, he goes home and talks to his mom and tells her that what they can do to change their behavior. And now I hope I can just switch to Marianne.
Yangu akumbuka kama ndo mrejesho.
Zangu umenikumbusha sasa.
Wewe ushasahau hasa?
Ushasahau. Na naitoaje mwenzako?
Kwa nini?
Hapa sijata naitoaje. Hapa ninasema nisubiri baba yake Shukuru. Nije nimkamue hivyo hivyo. Kanipa sawa, hajanipa.
Ndio. Haya, sasa nenda kaniwekee mkojo mpaka hapa, sawa? Haya, nenda kaweke mkojo. Haya, simama. Asante. Asante sana. Kanae mikono, alafu joka. Haya, asante sana. Ni nini kichocho? Kichocho kinapatikana wapi? Ni nani anasababisha kichocho? Je, unamjuaje mtu aliye na kichocho?
Kichocho kinapatikana kwenye maji, kwenye mito, na kwenye mashamba ya mpunga yenye maji. Anayesababisha kichocho ni koa au kwa jina jingine konokono. Dalili za kichocho ni mtu kukojoa damu, kusikia maumivu wakati wa kukojoa na kujihisi mchovu. Mama,
Shita. Asemaje?
Uko skuli tumfundishwa kuhusu kichocho. Tunaambiwa hivi, tusifue mitoni wala tusiogelee mitoni, kuna kichocho. Tunaambiwa tukitaka fua twende kwenye sehemu ya kufulia au kwenye mifereji au visimani.
Sasa hizo sehemu za kufulia
zipo.
Sasa wewe kwa hushi mtoni.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Yeah, so as you've seen, we are already far, and now we are really finalizing the editing of this movie, and then hopefully very soon we can also show it in the communities and then assess the impact of the movie on knowledge, attitude, and practices regarding schisto in the communities. And as a little side note, we also have enough footage to edit kind of a second movie and make a little documentary about general interventions of schisto in Pemba. And herewith, I would like to close my presentation and acknowledge a couple of people, including our Helmut Interventions group at Swiss DPH, led by Stefanie Knopp, who has always also been my PhD supervisor, our fantastic team from the Public Health Laboratory Ivo de Canere in Pemba and the Ministry of Health in Zanzibar. And a big shout out also to Hannah from the University of Glasgow. She's a professional science communicator, and she's been super helpful and supportive and always there when I had a question. The whole film is funded by the Swiss National Science Foundation, by the University of Glasgow, and the government of Switzerland. And the film company that we've been working with to make the movie is called J&O Communications from Tanzania. And thank you all very much for your attention.
Thank you, Lydia. How amazing to get a behind-the-scene tour of this wonderful research project, and also seeing how the film is being embedded. In fact, 2 films, as you've just explained, possibly, are being embedded all the way from just creating a beautiful storytelling effort all the way down to monitoring and the evaluation of how this also will reach the communities at risk of schistosomiasis. So a very exciting project. Thank you. We really look forward to seeing more of this. So it's been a pleasure to hear from you. I'm going to move on now to our next speaker, Ilan Moss. Ilan, you're with the DNDi, and I think amazing films have just become your speciality. This is, I think, efforts that are very close to the heart of DNDi, just translating some of the very complex scientific work you do into these amazing stories and, in fact, award-winning films. So it's a pleasure to welcome you and to discover not 1, but 2 more of these wonderful films that you treat us with almost yearly now. So over to you. Thanks for being here.
Wow, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. And I do have a presentation. Do you want me to present it, or are you going to be able to put it up?
Yeah, I'll put it up now.
Great. So thanks. And yeah, I think it's up. And, you know, obviously this is not a one-person affair. You know, for those that don't know DNDi, I'm sure many of you don't, we are a not-for-profit that develops treatments for neglected diseases, not just NTDs, but neglected diseases writ large. And one of our principal founders was Doctors Without Borders, or MSF, Médecins Sans Frontières. And they have this concept called témoignage, which is sort of bearing witness. And I like to think, you know, I mean, you all know MSF comms, they're fantastic. I like to think that, you know, over the years, we've sort of figured out how to take that principle from MSF, one of our founders, of bearing witness to what we see, and apply it to, as Marianne said, science and telling science stories, but importantly, telling stories of science in the areas we work in, which you'll see today isn't just, quote unquote, low and middle income countries. It can be in the U.S. as well. And I thought today we would. There's 2 films, but I think if you add the 2 films together, that's 20. I can't do maths. I think it's 23 or 24 minutes of film. So I don't know if you want to show everything. It's up to you. One film is 7 minutes long, and one film is 15 minutes long. But I took these 2 examples. I'm not a filmmaker by any means, but I'm a journalist by training, and I did mostly print journalism. So, it's only at DNDi that myself and some of my colleagues have been able to learn these skills by working with these filmmakers. And I think as we all move on as professionals in the neglected disease or even global health space, we need to learn how to make films. I think we need to share what we do. I loved how you saw me commenting on the last film, Shot in the Arm, just blew me away. I can't wait to see it. I think it's important to share, to compare, and to learn from our peers. And I have to say the WHO Film Festival is a fantastic, all the kudos to Gilles and to his team at WHO for starting this festival, because that gave us a place to compete, and competition can be good in the sense that you learn and you see what works, what doesn't work, and you get awareness and you get recognition and you get funding as well for future films if you can make it to the very end. So kudos to WHO for starting this wonderful film festival. So we're happy we won the Grand Prix for the first festival, and we have a film in the running now with some tough competition for the current festival. So it's a selection. So there's 2 sort of concepts I wanted to talk about just really quickly. So I think what I'm thinking are more cinematic films, and then a concept which you all know, cinema verite, cinéma vérité, for the French speakers, which is a documentary style, which I think more NGOs should be picking up. Moves us a little from that corporate space and more into a storytelling space. If you can go to the next slide, that would be great. So the first film that we wanted to talk about, which is 15 minutes. I think it's too long. It's on YouTube. It's up to you guys. It's up to Marianne. You can decide what you want to show. But there was just some elements that I wanted to really pull out of this film. We had to make a film about DNDi. It's a corporate film, yet we wanted to tell a story. We wanted to make it compelling, and we wanted to make it cinematic. What does that mean? I think, first of all, it has to be character-driven, and character-driven takes time to build out these characters. You want your audience to feel empathy. You don't just want talking heads on the screen. You want someone you can relate to. And in order to do that, you need to take the time out to build that empathy with the person. We chose 3 folks. There's only 2 stills there because I ran out of time making the presentation. But the third person is Dr. Nalika, who is very well known to ISNTD. She's a fantastic dengue doctor and dengue researcher in Colombo, Sri Lanka. And up above you have Dr. Wilfried from the DRC. And below you have Dr. Jadel Krantz, who's a researcher from Brazil. So I think there's, just to go really quickly, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I think what's so important, I wrote DNDi's incredible network. We have access to these stories. We all have access to these stories as professionals and NGOs. And sometimes I think we take the mentality of we need to push a message. We have a milestone coming, or we have a corporate fundraising need. And we let ourselves get caught up, and we lose track that we actually have access to these stories that need to be told. But in order to tell them, you need to take a different approach. It's not just going in and shooting B-roll and having talking heads. It's building out these characters. And we really tried to do that. I mean, to the extent where you have Dr. Wilfried packing his bag before he goes on a field mission. It might seem a little, mundane to film someone packing their bag, but it builds out the story. You see him at home, you see him waking up early. And there's also setting up shots, Jadel would write, that's actually a Chagas drug chemical structure. I am not a scientist, so I don't want to say anything wrong. But instead of writing it out on a screen, or we sort of set up a shot where, hey, why don't you write on this amazing window, which is something you would do anyway when you're speaking with your colleagues, and we can get this sort of epic shot of you doing the chemical structure from behind a window, and the shot was incredible. These shots, I think, really make the difference with viewers these days, and building out every shot is so important. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. And above there, you have Dr. Jenny, who's working on our river blindness trials in the DRC, and you have a shot from Colombo of a mom looking over her child who just recovered from dengue. I think the only way you're going to get amazing cinematic shots is working with the right folks, finding the companies that do storytelling, but not imposing what we want and what, as NGOs, what our corporate needs are, but it's working with them. I've worked with, been around the block now, and I've worked with lots of production agencies. They're experts. We need to listen to them. I've seen situations where NGOs can sort of lean on the camera person, come to this meeting, come to this meeting, come to this meeting, film whatever you can film. It needs to be different, I think. You need to spend that time to set up shots that really can be beautiful, that actually reflect what's happening, so you're not setting things up, and that, most importantly, respect, the patients. And that involves a lot of setup. And I don't think in NGOs, I think it's happening, but many NGOs still, you need to convince people. It's not just going in for a day, filming and leaving. These things take time, and they take resources. And I think the homework is the most important. I'm sure all my colleagues here who are storytellers know, but there's more homework than you think. I mean, and it's great to spend time with professional filmmakers. If you can intern, or if you have a friend, or anything you can do to spend time with these people and learn about how they organize shoots. It's very different than how an NGO would have organized what we could call a content collection 10 years ago. They're like, okay, 3 days, we can go to 5 sites, interview a bunch of people and leave. It doesn't work that way for making films, and making films that I think have that cinematic quality. And then watch as many docs as you can. There's so many on streaming platforms. There's so many festivals. I think you need to bathe yourselves in film in order to make films. I think it's a silly thing to say, but so many people are making films now. And maybe they're not looking at the classics, it's even starting in the 50s, 60s, and seeing what works, and sharing with your, with colleagues and friends, links and influences. This is a great process. It's a creative process. That's why these festivals are so fantastic, and things that ISNTD do, just to link filmmakers, because that's where we are. We don't exist in a vacuum. I'll go to the next one. I'll try to be as quick as possible so you can show the films. So we just made a film, which is completely different than anything I've just spoken about, which it's called The Kissing Bug Doctors of Florida. It's currently it's a finalist for the World Health Organization Film Festival. It's really, I think, a pure example of cinema verite. It's in the US, and it's with highly neglected people, whether people living in rural areas of northern Florida. This is not the Florida that a lot of people will have heard about, Miami. These are the jungles of northern Florida. And migrants living with Chagas disease, an extremely vulnerable community. And I think the story there is, this was shot completely different. It was not, we didn't set up shots, but we worked with a journalist who, his name is Neil Brandvold. He's currently based in El Salvador, between El Salvador and Panama. And he has worked with, 1,000,001 different news outlets. So he's really a journalist. We met during the 2014 Ebola outbreak, and has this it's this very sort of quick and realistic way of filming. We don't set up shots, but also creates a tension. I think Shot in the Arm looks like there's some amazing examples of this type of filmmaking. And you can go online and find great examples as well. And, you work with journalists and you get a product that is very journalistic in its nature, and people like that. It's a little harder to put your corporate messages in there, but you can still fit them in and tell a story that's true, that's not set up, and that I think moves people. And then you can, being creative helps as well. In this case, I approached a Venezuelan American duo called Lydia and Joe. They're sort of bluegrass and traditional Venezuelan music. I asked them to do the soundtrack, so you have a different kind of musical soundtrack than a lot of these global health films. I saw the Schisto film had amazing Swahili music. Instead of just going to online databases for uplifting music, it's great to go for something different. It changes things around. I think that's it for my slides, but I sort of forgot. Maybe if you can go to the next one just to make sure I didn't forget anything. Thank you. That was it. That's it for me. I don't know how you want to do with the films because they're long. So that's on to you, Mariam. Thanks.
Thank you, Ilan. Yes, we definitely want to show the films because they do add up to about 20 minutes. I thought we could have our last speaker come on and a little bit in the same way as you have introduced the films. And then any questions from the audience? I can see everyone's actually dying to watch them, but I'm just going to delay that a tiny bit, and then we will show all of the films, and everyone can go grab a drink, enjoy, because they are really superb, Ilan. It's been amazing to see. You took us a little bit behind the scene there, all your advice, and now I understand why the DNDi films are always so engaging. It's even just, as you say, having your colleagues on screen has gone way beyond the talking heads. It's really a moment where you're just taken to that world and really understand the effort and the journey. So always a pleasure to watch your films. Thank you for sharing with us. So before we watch them, the suspense is killing me, but I'm just going to hand over the floor to our final speaker, Murchana Roychoudhury. Murchana, you're joining us from IS Global, the Barcelona Institute for Global Health, and you've also got a fantastic film to introduce to us, which we will be watching very shortly. So Murchana, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Marianne, for having me. I was just a participant yesterday, and I commented in one of the sessions saying, hey, we put out this film recently, so have a look, and you reached out to me, so I'm here.
Thank you.
And it's wonderful to be sharing this space. And really, I come here on behalf of the ECHO project, and all my colleagues, especially the filmmaker Nicolas Granada, the social scientist Elizabeth Posada, who were all involved, as well as our protagonist, Irene Rodriguez from the movie. So I'm going to quickly share my screen. All right. So Irene y la ruta de la salud, which translates to Irene and the path to health in English, is basically a story of co-creation and trust amid a pandemic and an infodemic. So this was shot in Cochabamba, Bolivia, and is part of the ECHO project. And before we start talking about the film itself, I'd like to really show the names of my entire team who was involved, because I believe Nicolas and Elizabeth and Irene herself could have done much more justice to this presentation, but since I'm here today, I'm going to try and do my best. So before we start talking about the film itself, I'll give you a brief introduction to the ECHO project. It stands for Enhanced and Equitable Coverage of COVID-19 Testing and Treatment in Bolivia and Paraguay. So this film and this project really came out of activities already taking place in Bolivia and Paraguay by our Chagas colleagues. And they have built really strong foundations with the community health leaders in these countries, with the health systems. So they were already doing their job when suddenly the pandemic happened and COVID-19 arrived. And they discovered that the community health leaders were at a loss and they weren't able to, cope with the situation. and they asked for help. So they said, hey, like there are these information gaps. We don't really have the tools and resources to handle this situation. How do we go about it? And that's how ECHO was born. And really the objective of this project was test and treat, a very simple public health strategy, that we've seen in many other diseases like malaria, where with a simple antigen test or a simple test, RDT, you can already start treating people and do case management. But this very simple idea of encouraging people to seek diagnosis was way more complex because of the circumstances surrounding it. So, in the early days of the pandemic, we dealt with stigma and suspicion. There was a lot of misinformation, either at the digital level or, even within neighborhoods. And then there was the fear of the unknown. So what would this vaccine do? Or, what happens if you contract COVID? So there were a lot of questions and not too many answers. And that's where this process started. And we knew from the very beginning that success in this situation would only mean involving the community from the very beginning. So the entire process was designed around a participatory angle, where we really sought out to seek, insights from the community at every step of the way. So the first step was to map what was going on, what were the practices in place, what were the ideas that were already around. And then we also looked at what were the tools that people were asking for, what were the potential platforms that could be used to fill some of the gaps. And then we went on to the co-creation process. And this was basically a lot of consultations with different stakeholders, whether it was community members, local health leaders, health authorities, or even the youth in the neighborhood. So we were sitting together, gathering information, and then there was this active listening process. Like empathy played a really big role in trying to translate all of these insights into what then became the interventions. And the fourth step is where the film sort of comes in, where we decided to comprehensively document the entire collective journey. We said, let's go in there and look for success stories, look for stories that we can extract from this beautiful experience, and then see how we can bring this to other spaces. And this pathway for participation is really like Elizabeth Posada's work. So if anyone's interested in learning more about the co-creation processes, please let me know and I'll put you in touch with her. So here are some examples of some of the outputs that came out from the co-creation processes. The first is an image of a consultation process where you have different people with diverse opinions and backgrounds sitting together and exchanging information, coming up with ideas, brainstorming. In the second image, you can see posters, pamphlets, and directives on what to do, how to take care of elderly people who have contracted COVID, or how to protect yourself, how to seek out testing. And the third is actually a screenshot of a YouTube video, which was very popular. It's a rap cumbia of the song called COVID no se ha ido, which means COVID's not gone yet. And you can see really how we tried to adapt all the materials to different kinds of audiences. There was rap and cumbia for the younger people. And then there was also like accordion music for, another generation. So really just playing with intergenerational communication ideas and getting different sort of insights from the community. So Irene y la ruta de la salud. So Irene's story is just one of many success stories that came out of this project. We have Irene in the first image. We have Felicidad in the second image. There is Dr. Matias and Alfredo, who were working in Paraguay. So there were so many stories and there were so many different ways they went about solving issues related to testing and treating in their communities that we decided to document all of these stories in different ways. So in some cases, we chose to do photo stories. Other cases, we did, podcasts. And in the case of Irene, because she came up with this brilliant idea of a radio show, we decided to go back and hear her story and document it with this little short film. So really in doing so, our first objective was to go back to these communities and celebrate the heroes that emerged from the community itself. So often, a lot of times, we look at a film as a vehicle to promote our own brand. But in this case, we really wanted to go back and say, hey, look, that's your neighbor. Or like, that's your grandmother who is, changing so many things around her during the pandemic. Or that's your, neighborhood doctor. So really, it was shining the spotlight on these people. And right now the films and the materials are circulating on WhatsApp. So it's really nice to go back out there and put the materials within the community. And one thing that we also wanted to do with this film was to highlight some of the lessons learned for pandemic preparedness. Something we've noticed is that after the pandemic, the entire conversation around pandemic preparedness has been sort of saturated with reports. There was a lot of policy briefs, a lot of official sounding documents. But we wanted to say that films count too. And these sort of anecdotal experiences that come out from, say, Cochabamba or, Presidente Hayes, District of Paraguay, these all can add to the lessons learned for tomorrow and how better to prepare for future pandemics. So this is just a 5 minutes short film, but within these 5 minutes, Irene and Nicolas, as well as Elizabeth, were able to really put together a lot of information, a lot of ideas, and it was a beautiful play of different kinds of ideas and backgrounds and different sorts of experiences and expertise that all the three people brought in. So really, we took co-creation very seriously, and from the very beginning, Irene was sort of in charge of the documentation process. And Nico went out there and said, hey, this is your story. We just want to document it. So tell it to us from your perspective. You write the script. You tell us where to shoot, and you take us around, in our life. So really, it was very nice of Nico to, as a director, there was a sense of power and there was a sense of responsibility over the script, the cinematography, and things like that. But Nico was really able to see all of this and just tell Irene to, take it on. And that's what makes this film so special, because you can really see Irene navigate her life and tell her story. And that's kind of really coming through in the storytelling process. And then the second thing that I would like to highlight is that we were able to demonstrate the power of radio through this film, which is funny because we managed to insert an entire radio program, a radio drama, into this 5 minutes film. And I grew up hearing this song called Video Killed the Radio Star, but it's not actually true because there are so many places around the world where radio is still the main mode of information and communication that, we really should not be neglecting radio in the communication space, especially in global health. So thanks to this radio drama, we were able to demonstrate a bit of relatability, whether it was the accent or different kinds of phrases being used or just the names. And then there was a bit of comedy and, we wanted to make it personable and appealing to the audiences. And also we were able to really put a positive spin to a story about COVID and misinformation and just, it's a very serious topic, but yet that we were able to bring out something positive out of this. So that was very special. And then thirdly, I'd like to really highlight the fact that we were able to really root this film in the context. So in the first image, you can see this water tanker sort of entering Irene's neighborhood. And this is very symbolic of Cochabamba. For those of us who know about the Cochabamba water wars, even during the pandemic, when a lot of people were out of their jobs, who were not able to keep bringing in their daily income, they were still being forced to pay really high prices for water. So that's really, we were able to, without really talking about these issues, we were able to somehow insert it into the film. And then on the positive side, there is the second image where we see Irene and her neighbor exchanging food, just spending time together, demonstrating a lot of neighborhood solidarity. And this is a theme that has been quite recurring in a lot of the stories that have come out of the ECHO project, where neighborhood solidarity and concepts like intercambio, just like exchange of goods and without profitability, have become a big theme for pandemic response to the pandemic. So these are some special moments from the film. And really, I would encourage everyone to go watch this film. We've been selected for the WHO Film Festival this year, and we welcome all kinds of feedback. Let us know if you like something, if you don't like something, and get in touch if you want to hear about the other stuff we've done with the ECHO project, and if you want to learn about the co-creation strategies. Thank you. Maybe Marianne wanted to to play the film now.
Murchana, thank you so much. And again, just adding to these this behind the scene insights that we're hearing from lots of different kinds of projects. So that's been really informative. And we definitely want to see all the films. Absolutely. We're about to screen them very shortly. Before everyone kind of sits back and relaxes, we just had perhaps a few questions for you. And if the audience had any questions as well, or any comments or feedback, then please do go ahead and add those in the chat. But if I could invite Lydia, Ilan, if you have a few minutes to kind of answer a few of our questions, please do come back on screen. It'd be lovely to have some of your insights. So I know that, Lydia, is this the first film that you've worked on, or do you have a background in filmmaking in global health?
No, it was the first time when I started. I didn't have any idea really. So I was really grateful that Hannah from the University of Glasgow was there to answer a lot of my questions.
Yeah.
And I've been Googling a lot, and then in the end, we had also just a fantastic film company that we've been working with, and we have a really great team in Pemba. So it's definitely not been me alone. But yeah, it's been the first time that I was involved in like storyboard writing and creating a story. Yeah.
Well, you're joined by certainly Ilan, all the way from your days as a journalist to now veterans of filmmaking in global health. Murchana, you also have substantial experience in communicating. And so I was just wondering, from your three very diverse perspectives, whether you felt that now that there is, for example, the WHO Film Festival coming into its 5th year, even here at ISNTD, this is our 8th annual ISNTD Festival. We've been kind of talking about and promoting films and photo and lots of other projects for many years. Is the role of film in global health changing? You are setting the bar higher and higher, particularly with a film such as yours, Murchana, entered in the WHO's competition, DNDi, always creating, it's really a cinematography piece rather than a documentary. Do you find things are changing in terms of the role of film in global health? If so, what have you seen, or what are the trends? And Ilan, just in case, I don't know if your video has somehow stopped cooperating, maybe, I can only see a black box. Is that the case for everyone else?
No, it's just me. I think my computer has been dropped too many times. Thanks.
Yeah, that happens. Well, sometimes just refreshing the page fixes the problem. I'm afraid I don't have another solution to offer, but that might work, I hope. Fingers crossed. Yeah, there you go. We can see you. That worked.
Oh.
So what's new in film for global health? And what's changing?
You want me to take this?
Yeah, sure, we can go with the panelists.
Great. I mean, it's on a million different levels. I mean, I think what's new but not yet figured out is dissemination, right? So, the social media algorithms are a disaster now, and people, less and less want to watch films online, or just want to spend their time online because it's a toxic space in many ways. So I think finding, new channels of dissemination, whether it's streaming platforms or things like streaming platforms is great. And then on other levels, in the DRC where we make a lot of our films, we really ensure that communities are able to see those films. So making versions shareable on WhatsApp is really important. Having screenings in communities is totally worth the effort. It takes some effort, but I do think the the equipment is getting better, right? There's no doubt, and there's many more films, which is fantastic. But we do need to figure out dissemination. I mean, the film festival is great, but I think we need to figure out how to get our stories out there. And I think what's new is exactly what some of the other speakers said. Is we're trying to think of different ways to, instead of just being corporate and being like, here's what we're doing, here's a beneficiary of our work, and here's some person sitting in an office saying why it's important. We're trying to change things around and get new audience, and there's no doubt that it's working. The screening is an amazing thing, and universities are a great place to do it anywhere around the world. And I think we're starting to think that we're just not going to put a YouTube link on Twitter. I think what's new as well is people are trying to be creative in screenings, and that's important too. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, the question of dissemination, particularly as there seems to be no middle ground. It's either very long films or it's very short ones, and so they kind of imply different kinds of events or audiences every time. A good puzzle. Murchana, yes, please add to that.
I'd like to jump in quick. I think there's also been a lot of changes over the years, because I remember that the first few documentaries on global health I watched, often they would have, say, voices in English, sort of the dubbing used to just, come over a regional language or something like that. And now we've gotten to a part where, languages are being appreciated. The music is becoming more diverse. We're moving away from the top-down sort of filmmaking process, and even going the extra mile and doing participatory filmmaking and stuff like that. So it's exciting times. But yes, I agree with Ilan. Looks like there are changes, especially in the way we consume media, because now we are always thinking about making films shorter and shorter. Next thing we know, we're looking at 1-minute films maybe, but yeah.
Yes, make a 1-minute masterpiece, please. That will address the global cause. It's tough. Lydia, you're new to the exercise, but is there anything that you saw while you were in Pemba about how the film was made, or what really came up as a priority in terms of ensuring its success in brackets?
I think our way to success was really making the movie the way the community wanted it, and really designing it based on what we got as feedback from before. They haven't seen it yet, so I'm not sure if we achieved the goal. But this was I mean, it's always been the idea that it was a film made in Pemba for Pemba. So I hope this way to do it and really ask them, what kind of movie do you want to see, achieve the goal of them actually liking it and the movie having an impact on the community.
Yeah, that's interesting. So this notion of films being more and more inclusive, more and more participatory, is really interesting. Nurul Athira Nasruddin on the chat, who's connecting from Malaysia, is also very happy to get in touch with the speakers and engage with anyone. Nurul's area of projects circulates around infectious diseases and using participatory approaches to get stories and perspectives from people. There is certainly this feeling, whether it be in storytelling through the eyes of affected communities, or just in general how we want to communicate about infectious diseases, neglected diseases, that communications will take a bigger and bigger role. And is there anyone or any parties that, as filmmakers, and now you are a filmmaker, Lydia, you would like to see more involved in this space? Funding, I'm assuming, is up there, but anyone else really? I mean, how can we boost this cooperation between arts and science? I'm not sure who wants to.
The question is to me now, but I sometimes have the feeling funding is definitely an issue, I think. And if it comes to science communicators, I have the feeling, I know a couple of great science communicators who started their career on YouTube, but I think it took them a long time until they became so famous that they would actually earn money with it.
Yeah.
And even then they would need to be really employed by either public TV of a country or need to do advertisement in their YouTube videos. So I think this whole funding thing, if you're not a scientist but you're a science communicator, then who's going to pay you? And I think that's a bit of a problem that I see, and that's a long way that you're becoming so famous that someone is actually willing to pay you for it.
Mm. Oh, sorry, Ilan, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. If I could jump in, that was a great point about science communicators. I mean, we've talked a lot about influencers, right? That's still a big focus. And yeah, I mean, obviously working with them and including them in our films and boost that. Universities are fantastic. And you know, this film we did with Chagas in Florida, we did it in cooperation with the university. It's not always easy to shoot in a university context in the US, in Europe, anywhere, because there's a lot of rules. But once you get over that hoop, you have sort of an internal audience, and you have thousands, if not, or hundreds, if not thousands of people that are studying science, that are studying health, that share the film, that look at the film, that interact with it. So I think working with universities, working with schools, obviously when the project is run by the university, it's easy, but even if the researchers are from them, I think we need to be, sometimes we can be a little scared of them because they can sometimes put up a lot of barriers, but it's great to work with universities. And I think, you know, a last bit that I got just personally from working on the communication side and for Ebola, you know, I think there's a lot of issues with doing films in an outbreak setting. I'm really curious about watching this, what's it called, shot in the arm film, because I saw there was a lot of outbreak shots. Because issues of consent and ethical issues like that are just so important. I think we're just learning how to walk through those hoops, to be honest. There's still a lot of holes. And an outbreak really challenges you to obviously respect those to the utmost. We have more outbreaks coming, so there's no doubt. Unfortunately, that's the nature of this world. That's why we're here. I do think we need to keep on talking about the ethics behind these things, how we work with patients, and in settings like, you know, NTDs where you go, there's a few patients, but when we're talking about millions of patients, we need to keep on working, I think, on how to better, you know, deal with these ethical issues. It's going to keep on coming up over and over again. The lessons learned from the 2014 outbreak, you know, are still, and I think a lot of people are still grappling with that in West Africa because of some of the ethical breaches and consent breaches, but definitely something worth talking about in the future too. Thanks.
Thank you, Ilan. Murchana, would you like to add to that?
Well, I think they've fairly covered most of the important topics around this issue of funding. But also, just to add to this, I feel like for this particular project, the ECHO project, wrapped up, and now we really wanted to go back to the community for a screening, and it's been difficult ever since. And so sort of like the funding cycle around these projects, they wrap up and then it's difficult to keep things going afterwards, which is why the WHO Film Festival is an excellent opportunity to get it out there. But yeah, need to find ways to get to the community as well.
Yes, definitely. I think that what you've all highlighted, and particularly Ilan, your very kind of urgent concern for ethical issues and consent is something that we've heard throughout the festival. It's this really growing role of the creative person, whether that be the photographer or the filmmaker. You are really, what you will share is what becomes the concept. And so with that comes a really huge responsibility, particularly when talking about or sharing the story of affected persons. And I mean, I'm not even going to touch on misinformation because we're just going to assume we're all doing information for the purpose of this question. Really a huge responsibility on the shoulders. And I think that's what's been very positive and has been coming through these festivals with an increasing tempo is the really huge role that the creative industry and the creators will have in addressing public health, global health, very challenging issues in the right way. And so how do you feel about that responsibility? How can we ensure, how can we support creatives with that? And it will kind of be also some of the closing words of this festival, looking to the future and to the next year. How can we best support the creative industry to really tell the global health story in the right way? I'm not sure if someone wants to go first. It is a big question to conclude a big event. Murchana, would you like to go first?
I think we need more interdisciplinary profiles to sort of bridge the gap, and researchers who are really interested in communicating and translating their science. And starting with this point, then we can maybe aspire to create materials, creative communication materials that are doing justice to the science as well. And platforms like this is really good opportunity. Today somehow, it's great to have someone in the panel today who is also like coming from the research side of things to be able to, represent that. So we need to have more dialogue between these two sort of groups and focus on translation.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll say it. I think I already said this again. I already said this before, but bringing in the scientists is super important. Bringing in the communities. We need to figure out ways to also bring in these documentary makers and these creatives. We need to change the paradigm to creative companies pitching global health organizations to make films about their work. I mean, that's what it is now, in honesty. So figuring out, grant, I think it's always about funding, but it doesn't have to always be about funding too. But programs that can change that paradigm of just client and advertising, and client and sort of ad campaign that needs to be made. I think we have something deeper that really, goes to the core of science. So I think if that paradigm could shift, I don't know how, I don't have an answer. So it's just not just clients and agencies. That'd be amazing. And maybe as video making is more democratized and people can just pick up a camera and shoot, 4K quality, film quality footage, and we can move towards that. But we're not there yet.
No, but certainly the rapid change in technology is shifting those relationships quite quickly. Lydia, you're embarking on your journey as a communicator. What do you feel could be improved?
I think what was said already were great points, that a lot of communication need to happen between different stakeholders of making a movie or creating different kind of creative things. I also think, and it's actually been a comment in the chat from Tosin, talking about dialects and local languages, and I think that's a great point. I don't know how often someone told me you need to know your audience. So I think it's really, if it's a movie that's made for a specific area, I think it's amazing to do it in not only in the local language, but actually in the dialect that's spoken exactly in that region. What Ilan also said about giving someone a camera and shoot, this idea of this photo voice, where you actually give someone a camera, that's becoming a bigger and bigger topic in science also, which I think is amazing, to just give someone a camera and they take videos and photos from their perspective and targeting problems that they see. And I think that's a really great way to either create something or get ideas for the next step. Yeah, so I think this whole communicating together and really giving locals a voice for who it's made is really important.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, the points you brought up in this last question really kind of summarize and pull together what a lot of the things we've heard over the last 2 days of the festival. The kind of really trying to boost these cross-disciplinary collaborations. We often say for innovation in health, don't lead with the solution, and that kind of is immediately transposable to storytelling as well. Let the story come from affected persons, from people working, living, experiencing in endemic areas, and then also very importantly, as you've been highlighted, just really boosting and increasing the platforms, the opportunities for disseminating, whether those 3 points apply to film, as we've been discussing now, or podcasts. We just heard very similar messages about an hour or two ago, and then just more generally around communicating about these diseases. I don't know about yourselves, but I always come out of an ISNTD Festival feeling very optimistic, which doesn't happen in every tropical disease conference. There's so much exciting work happening. It's going in the right direction, and we're just always very grateful for everything we learn, everything we experience. So on that note, I thought it would be quite important to save a bit of time to play all the amazing films that have been coming through, whether in this session, just throughout the 2 days, and then more generally that have been sent in over the last few weeks from many of our partners and friends around the world. So unless we have any more final messages to conclude the ISNTD Festival, I will soon move on to playing those. But any final words that you would like to share with our audiences around creativity and tropical diseases before we say goodbye to each other? All has been said. Amazing. Funda Dogrumanal in the chat has written, thanks to all the speakers for their perfect presentation and interesting discussions on this amazing topic. I couldn't agree more. I think the audience over the last 2 days would join me in thanking you very much for concluding this and sharing your amazing insights with us. And so there's nothing left for me to do but to wish you all farewell, best wishes until we meet again, and especially until we get back together to see what new creativity has been sparked in the near future. So thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope to meet very soon in person again. And so you're welcome to stay with us off camera or just relax, grab a hot drink, and then in a few seconds I will launch the films. And there's about a good hour's worth of material, so enjoy, relax, and yeah, all the best. Thank you so much to our speakers.
Por la ruta de la salud, juntos podemos ganarle al COVID. Eugenio es chofer de taxi trufi. Él no creía en el COVID.
A desayunar. Lenny, Evi, Luis.
Bueno, mi nombre es Irene, tengo 39 años, tengo 3 hijos. Bueno, están en mi casa, que está ubicado aquí en Cochabamba, en la zona sur. En lo personal, a mí me dio 2 veces el COVID, pero agradezco a Dios porque estoy viva. Fue un tiempo muy difícil, muy difícil. En mi OTB no estuvimos preparados, entonces luchamos con lo que había, ¿no? Entonces nosotros como familia nos cuidamos, lo que es el barbijo, pero mucha gente no lo usó y pues puedo decir que hubo muchas pérdidas de nuestros vecinos. ECO vino a trabajar, diría, de mano a mano con lo que son las OTBs, porque no todos somos iguales y no todos pensamos de la misma manera. Muchos no lo creen, dicen, no, dice que los gringos nos quieren matar. Y no, eso no existe, es una mentira. Y decía ahí, ¿no?, que podamos aportar en hacer folletos, volantines. Y digo, nos anotaremos en radio, sí, haremos radio, ya. Una novela de radio, dijo, ¿no?
Este material ha sido elaborado por el grupo voluntario del área del Centro Minero San Juan en el marco del proceso de co-creación de la campaña de comunicación del Proyecto ECO.
Y dijimos, ¿y ahora sobre qué vamos a hacer? Ahí me acordé de uno de nuestros vecinos y este señor pues tenía su trufi y trabajaba todas las mañanas. Cuando le decían, no tienes miedo a esto, te tienes que cuidar, porque no usaba barbijo el señor. Y él decía, no.
Yo no creo en esas cosas.
Maestrito, ¿cómo vas a hablar eso? Infórmate bien, pues. El COVID no se ha ido.
Todo lo que nos dicen es para asustarnos.
Él no creía y resulta que un día...
Eugenio, ¿sigues durmiendo?
Ay, me asustaste, mujer. Ay, uy, qué raro, me duele todo el cuerpo y mi cabeza.
Nos reuníamos como grupo para trabajarlo. Fuimos armando como un rompecabezas.
¿No será que te estás enfermando? Vamos al centro de salud.
Eugenio no quiere ir al médico. Dice, no, yo no voy a ir, pero... Y cuando ya Margarita le dice, no, pero nuestros hijos...
Vamos de una vez.
Ya, iremos. Para que dejes de molestarme, vamos a ir, Margarita, ¿ya?
Entonces, fue la historia de la cual relatamos.
¿Cómo está don Eugenio? Lamento informarle que su prueba de COVID-19 salió positiva.
Doctora, ¿y qué tenemos que hacer ahora? Hemos visto que esa enfermedad es mortal y muy contagiosa. Temo por mis papás, que son mayores, y por mis guaguas también.
Lo bueno de todo esto es que usted lo trajo a tiempo.
Nosotros ya lo armamos esta parte, pero en la realidad no fue así, sino que él falleció sin dar importancia. Pero nosotros quisimos demostrar que si estamos a tiempo, esto sí se puede detener, se podría decir. No sé qué palabra utilizarlo, pero estaría hoy en día con vida si Eugenio hubiera ido al hospital en la vida real.
Después de unos días, Eugenio vuelve a las rutas de la ciudad.
Buenos días, pasajeros. Con barbijitos, por favor, el COVID no se ha ido.
A muchas familias nos ha cambiado. Pues aquí en la esquina, ¿no?, de mi casa, 2, 3 casas pasando. Ahí, por ejemplo, hubo un cambio porque él dice, yo casi muero. Porque él mismo dice, es como si tuviera una segunda oportunidad en la vida.
Debemos seguir cuidándonos para seguir en la ruta de la salud junto a nuestras familias.
A mí me gustó la parte que decía, ¡ay, ya Margarita! Y no, eso, porque hasta yo me reí cuando eso.
Of the monsoons has taken most people by surprise. 40,000 infections and 25 deaths in the first month.
When we were kids, we hadn't heard of dengue. All dengue endemic countries are having increasing dengue outbreaks every year. Things are getting worse because of climate change, so you have more mosquitoes to transmit the disease.
Typique de la maladie du sommeil. Comme médecin, effectivement, on enregistre des décès.
Mais c'est fin. Mais il y a ça, juste en regardant.
Il n'arrive pas. Il a un problème de coordination. Ouais, c'est le stade. Beaucoup de décès des enfants.
C'est qu'elle ne va pas regarder.
Zongisa. Salaboué.
Donc il y a beaucoup de signes neurologiques. Il est vraiment lourdement malade.
Ça, c'est des choses, c'est des expériences noires hein, qui font mal.
Un peu son âge.
Ces patients négligés qui n'ont pas de porte-voix, ils ont des problèmes de santé et pour lesquels il n'y a pas de solutions adaptées. Ils n'intéressent personne. Voilà. Et nous disons que ce sont des maladies des bouts de piste. Aller sur le terrain, chercher les patients ou arriver à atteindre les sites de ces cliniques, c'est un vrai défi.
Neglected patients live in very remote areas. They are very poor.
We are not seeing a strong investment for diseases affecting billions of people all around the world.
You're in the shadow. Nobody knows about you. You're not even in any statistic because nobody knows you exist. Patients suffer in silence. I first heard of neglected diseases when I was really a young doctor working for the Kenya Medical Research Institute. We had so many patients suffering from these neglected diseases. Doctors in the field don't have treatments, and if treatments are there, they're toxic, they're not easy to use, they're ineffective. At the same time, the Doctors Without Borders also working in the field were noticing the same thing. When they won their Nobel Peace Prize, they decided this is the moment.
We look upon this as an opportunity to highlight the forgotten populations that exist in extremely precarious situations.
In 2003, people from all around the world, from Brazil, from India, Malaysia, Kenya, from Paris, from MSF, they came and they said, let's fix this situation and let's show that we can have an alternative model of research and development.
Our patients are dying, not because their diseases are incurable, but because as consumers, they do not provide a viable market for pharmaceutical products.
They created DNDi.
DNDi is a not-for-profit
drug research and development organization that discovers, develops, and delivers treatments for neglected patients. When I look back to where we started, children were dying in great numbers. When DNDi was created in 2003, the first thing we did was look combination treatment for malaria.
Le premier traitement que DNDi a développé, c'est l'AZAC. Et c'est une combinaison artésunate à molécule pour le traitement du paludisme. Toutes les personnes, quel que soit l'âge, qui ne se sentent pas bien, ils savent, en fonction des lieux, de leur lieu de vie, il y a un site de traitement communautaire là-bas. Et ils vont là-bas, et il y a un test rapide qui est fait, puis il y a de l'AZAC qui est donné, et c'est gratuit. À travers le monde, il y a plus de 500 millions de personnes qui ont accès à l'AZAC. Les gens ont peur de la maladie du sommeil parce que c'est une maladie qui évolue et qui touche le système nerveux central, donc le cerveau. Quand elle touche le cerveau, il y a des gens qui ont des signes qui sont stigmatisés pour ça.
And the treatment that was there was very toxic. Killed in 1 in 20 patients. The patients were feeling like there was fire in their veins.
Il y avait besoin qu'on ait un comprimé. Nous avons mis en place le site et puis nous avons fait cet essai qui, heureusement, a abouti. Un peu vers en 2018, nous avons le fexinidazole qui est enregistré. Premier traitement oral disponible, enregistré en RDC. La différence que fexinidazole fait, c'est que c'est un traitement qui est très facile à administrer.
Ok, madame, c'est bon.
C'est un traitement qui peut être administré même à la maison. C'est un traitement qui peut être administré dans des villages les plus reculés.
Ici, ça fait pendant combien de jours?
10 jours.
Take this treatment at home and you're cured of your sleeping sickness. That is a dream. It's like magic.
Nous sommes fiers de ça et d'avoir participé à ça. Les enfants vivant avec VIH sont dans la catégorie des patients négligés puisqu'il n'y avait pas de formulation pédiatrique adaptée.
If the treatment is not started within the first year of their life, close to 75% of them will be dead by the time they are 5 years of age.
Avant, nous avions des traitements, des sirops qui n'avaient pas forcément un bon goût, qui n'avaient pas une bonne odeur, pas facile à donner aux enfants. DNDi a développé une combinaison de 4 antirétroviraux en un, mais très facile à administrer puisque c'est une capsule avec des granules et qui peuvent aller dans la bouillie de l'enfant, dans son thé.
Et puis bon, tu peux mettre dans une nourriture solide, comme tu peux mettre dans la bouillie, et voilà.
C'est très facile, ça rend facile la vie du parent qui doit chaque jour donner le médicament à l'enfant.
Many people did not believe that we could actually deliver any treatments using this non-for-profit research and development model in very, very remote areas. But in 20 years, we have delivered 12 treatments.
Nous arrivons à le faire, ces essais sophistiqués, mais dans ces milieux-là. Et ça, nous sommes dans notre élément. Il y a 20 ans, je n'avais pas ces médicaments quand je voulais traiter les patients. Des expériences que la prochaine génération de médecins ne va pas vivre, il ne va pas connaître la mortalité, le décès que nous.
We've been able to save millions of lives, but it's not over.
A doença de Chagas é uma doença que foi descrita há mais de 100 anos.
Não existe mais a condições do tratamento da doença de Chagas em si.
Então, o que acontece muitas vezes é que esses pacientes eles são infectados pelos parasitas ainda na infância e então esse quadro ele evolui ao longo dos anos, muitas vezes passando totalmente despercebido pelos pacientes.
And 20, 30 years or more later, you can just drop dead.
De morrer. Com a doença de Chagas. Eu acho que é o maior medo deles.
අවට ඩෙන්ගු තියෙනවා ඩෙන්ගු ඉස්සරහගේ වල ළමයින්ටත් හැදුනා.
Dengue is caused when Aedes mosquito infects you.
ගොඩාක් කට්ටිය පොඩි ඉඩක ඉන්න හින්දා කුණු තියෙනවා වතුර රැඳෙන තැන් තියෙනවා.
Despite causing really havoc for over 30 years in Southeast Asia and Latin America, unfortunately we still don't have a treatment for dengue.
ඊට ඩෙන්ගු කිව්වට පස්සේ තවත් බය වුණා. බය වුණා ඉතින් කවුරුත් වුණා හරි මට වුණා හරි නොත් වෙන කවුරුත් නැහැ. ඊට මට ළමයිට බඩගින්න ඉන්න තියන්නත් බෑ. මට බඩගින්න ඉන්නත් බෑ.
How we have reduced case fatality rate is by doing this really intense monitoring to find out when people are going to develop complications. It's a huge workload for these nurses and doctors.
Pois são os pacientes que de fato vão nos passar as informações sobre o que é um tratamento, que seria um tratamento adequado e inovador para esses pacientes.
This is why at DNDi we have an alternative model, not based on profit, but is based on patient needs.
Muitas vezes esses pacientes vivem em áreas rurais, longe dos sistemas de saúde, vivem sem diagnóstico. Eles ainda sofrem muito com essas doenças. E gera esse senso de urgência. Como pesquisadores, são necessários novos tratamentos.
Porque eu gosto de mal, eu não ia fazer o...
Então é muito importante, e parte da forma como a DNDi atua, fazer essa conexão entre quase dois mundos diferentes. Um mundo de pessoas negligenciadas, sendo impactadas por doenças, com super avançado e de tecnologia de ponta.
We would like to go for new chemical entities, new drugs for Chagas.
A DNDi, nos seus esforços de descoberta de novos medicamentos, trabalha com os melhores parceiros, os melhores grupos de investigação ao redor do mundo. Diferentes tipos de parceiro na universidade, institutos de pesquisa, empresas, incluindo áreas endêmicas.
This alternative model is about partnerships.
The way we do research needs to change. Working in isolation, not sharing data, actually hinders the development of science. What DNDi has done is form this global alliance for dengue to find treatment solutions. We have to accelerate the treatment development for dengue. It's not the time to wait until somebody else finds you a solution. It's about us finding solutions ourselves.
We have reached 20 years, but the work has only just begun.
C'est un avenir pour moi qui est fait encore de défis.
Conflicts, economic crisis, the climate crisis are extremely hard for neglected populations.
We know that there are more and more pandemics coming, whether we like it or not.
Mais c'est un avenir qui est fait de beaucoup d'optimisme puisque nous avons acquis de l'expérience. Nous sommes en train de nous engager sur d'autres pathologies.
We are going towards the last mile. We are headed towards elimination of sleeping sickness.
As a doctor, you can save thousands of lives. But if you discover a drug, you end up saving millions of lives.
DNDi, it's about people from the beginning, people from all around the world that decided to gather their expertise, to think about what this model could be. We know that we still have challenges, but we stay committed to continue bringing the best science for the most neglected.
We are changing the environment. Many people are moving to Florida. They're living in regions that are close to nature. And many of our homes are close to that urban wildlife interface. As our environment changes, the parasite will adapt. The kissing bug will adapt. Chagas disease needs attention here in the United States. We really do not understand the breadth of how many people are infected. It is here. It's in many states. There we go. Right here on our doorstep. Perfect. They know me as the kissing bug doctor around here. I work here at the University of Florida in the College of Medicine. I'm an assistant professor. Chagas disease is a neglected tropical disease caused by the parasite Trypanosoma cruzi. The Chagas work here in Florida started 4 years ago, knowing two things. One, that we have Latin American immigrants living in the state with Chagas disease, as well as knowing that the insect is here. All right, Dr. Parker, so we've been able to isolate a patient here who may be at risk for Chagas disease. She is from Zacatecas, Mexico. I'm so sorry you're having this infection here in your arm. But I also want to talk to you about Chagas disease and these bugs, the chinches. Say.
Yes, I recognize that.
You recognize those?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that these bugs could cause an infection?
No.
No.
Just until now, we know.
Okay. Well, one important thing about this type of infection is it can infect the heart. Chagas disease affects the cardiovascular system, so your heart goes into fibrillation.
Okay.
Hasta luego. If we're unable to get you out of that fibrillation event, you'll pass away.
Miss Marina. Chagas es una enfermedad endémica en Latinoamérica. Estábamos viendo casos que se habían contraído en nuestros países nativos y que habían emigrado los pacientes aquí y bueno, no se les había detectado de niños. Tenemos otros pacientes que son nuevos y porque se ha visto que el insecto también con el parásito se ha encontrado acá en la Florida.
Yeah, right in this area, it's really, you're close to nature, and folks like to just live right here in the swamp and close to these bugs, especially during the summer months. They're coming out and invading into their home and biting them. Look over here, so this garden right here, organic garden. Been able to isolate bugs in 22 counties in Florida. And nearly 1/3 of all the counties in Florida we have found a kissing bug in over the last 2 years. certain wildlife are reservoirs for Trypanosoma cruzi. We started to trap animals here locally. We found upwards of 50% of Florida opossums in our studies had T. cruzi, as well as raccoons. We've just recently isolated the first canine Chagas disease acquired here in Florida, and it's really important that we show that this parasite is being transmitted to hosts that are susceptible.
We got this, we do, yes.
You know, we have found that upwards of 30% of our bugs here in Florida are infected with Trypanosoma cruzi, and these insects are found throughout the United States.
Agarramos una gotica, con eso basta. Me llamo Rodrigo Alcalá, nací en Barcelona, en el país Venezuela, y crecí allá por toda mi vida, hasta los 14 años, y después nos vinimos para Estados Unidos. Siempre tuve un interés, como una inclinación a estudiar enfermedades infecciosas tropicales que por muchos años han estado en mi vida, ya sea porque las contraje yo o tengo familiares, amigos, vecinos, conocidos que han padecido de ellas. Tengo un tío que era muy cercano a mí yo creciendo, su nombre es Jacinto, quien falleció de la enfermedad de Chagas. Para nosotros fue una gran sorpresa de que haya fallecido de una enfermedad cardíaca. Empezamos a hacer estas ferias que estamos haciendo y empezamos a hacer los exámenes del Chagas para las personas. Y eso para mí ha sido pues muy gratificante porque es como poder hacer el trabajo que hubiera salvado a mi tío.
Dr. Beatty's program here in Florida is providing an example of what others can do across the country to help confront the disease, because he's looking at not only the transmission cycle here locally, but he's finding ways to make treatment and testing more available to the people who really need it.
I truly love giving back to my community. Here in Florida, we need to understand almost every aspect of this disease. And we need to take a One Health approach to understanding Chagas in this country, as well as other regions of the world. Hey, Ray, thanks for taking us out, all right? I mean, you know, what I study are these bugs called kissing bugs.
Au village ici, si une femme sait qu'elle a ça, elle se cache. Elle ne veut pas en parler.
Tu viens en cachette, prends tes médicaments et tu t'en vas.
Elle avait des démangeaisons. Elle avait des douleurs au niveau de son bas-ventre. Il y avait du sang dans ses urines.
Les jeunes femmes, elles sont beaucoup plus touchées parce que c'est elles qui sont beaucoup en contact avec les lieux où la maladie se trouve.
Pratiquement 96 à 98% même des prestataires n'avaient pas d'idée sur la bilharziose génitale féminine.
Avant la formation, nous on traitait les femmes ici comme des IST.
Toute maladie aussi qui est sexuelle, on se dit que ça se transfère par le sexe. Donc, il n'y a pas beaucoup. On a honte d'expliquer ce qui se passe.
Depuis que nous avons eu la formation, nous connaissons les signes de la bilharziose génitale féminine.
On nous a donné des médicaments gratuitement qu'on donnait et ça incitait les femmes à venir couramment dans les centres de santé.
Ina kwance lokacin ina kamar zazzabi. Yana jin na ya kumbura duka. In sa hannu na hina jin in yayi laushi. Sai nake kuka. Ina kuka ina kwance ni ne kada a zaure ko da sa hannu in ji ya tsure.
Noma is a gangrenous infection of the face, which usually starts from the gum or the gingiva to the fleshy parts of the face. It destructs the bones, the soft tissue, and
Ina kwance lokacin ina kamar zazzabi. Yana jin na ya kumbura duka. In sa hannu na hina jin in yayi laushi. Sai nake kuka. Ina kuka ina kwance ni ne kada a zaure ko da sa hannu in ji ya tsure.
Noma is a gangrenous infection of the face, which usually starts from the gum or the gingiva to the fleshy parts of the face. It destructs the bones, the soft tissue, and everything around the face. It affects children at the age of 2 to 7 years old, but usually from 2 to 4. It can affect anywhere on the face, mainly on the sides. And there is also a central noma which affects the nose and the upper lip or the lower lip.
No kaga da rawanin da ko da ni tashi da rawanin gani da ni wayo rawanin ga kullu irin ina tare da wannan rawani ina rube fuska na. To sai ni hita tan wani kaya ni zabo ko Allah ya bani wallahi.
Na shekara ko ina tare da su. To ka gani don mata na biyu yayi duk sun ka jahi. Yan kayo ni aka ce ko ni ai kila tahiya ni kai don ba mu so ne. Ce to ni mutuwa dai ka sani in tahi in bari.
Noma patients really have that stigma whenever they get into the society. It's hard for them to, integrate into the society because of the disfigurement on the face. And they also have a lot of difficulties while eating, while feeding, because if half of the face is down, is gone, is eaten by Noma, you'll find out that patients, have to do some maneuvers for them to get food into their mouth and then to swallow. And part of the problems they are facing is a speech problem.
When somebody is like that, definitely there will be intimidation between you and people. Ni dai wannan ciwon ya hana ni abu da dama. Gaskiya wannan irin abu da dama tana hana da na iya shiga cikin jama'a in zauna. Kuma haka da na iya wannan. Haka kana yawo haka a cikin gari. Da sosai da. No one came to this hospital and go back remaining the same. Because the way they come, they will go back different. Since the operation was done, I'm so happy. I can go to anywhere. I can stand with people at anywhere. I felt I'm a human being like others. To anybody that is in my condition like this, they should not feel bad and they should not lose hope.
Demam berdarah tidak ada obatnya. Ini pertaruhan nih antara hidup dan mati, saya bilang kayak gitu. Di tahun 2015-2016 itu lagi wabah demam berdarah. Fase kritisnya Aska ini lebih memprihatinkan kalau saya bilang, karena dia memang tidak bisa mengeluh sakit, belum bisa yang sakit sebelah sini atau yang panas sebelah sini, karena dia belum bisa terlalu banyak ngomong waktu itu karena dia umurnya masih 3 tahun. Awal mula yang hutan-hutan kota itu harus tidak sama sekali, jadi kondisinya itu panas dan berdebu. Kenapa juga demam berdarah itu bisa mewabah ke Balikpapan itu ya salah satunya itu tadi kalau menurut hemat saya.
Cities is where the mosquito that transmits dengue virus thrives. Over the last 50 years, dengue has grown from several 100,000 cases to now an estimated 100 million cases every year. By 2080, the projection is that it's going to be 2/3 of the world's population will live at risk of dengue. So this problem, unless we do something about it now, will continue to grow. So I've been working on dengue for the last 25 years, trying to understand the emergence of dengue despite all the efforts in mosquito control. We have to stop thinking that we will one day have a magic bullet. It's a complex problem to solve. Currently, the way of controlling dengue is to reduce the mosquito population, prevent them from breeding. And the way to do that is to remove water containers where mosquitoes can breed. That's why it's so important to ensure that there's good water supply so that people don't have to store water in tanks. Besides tackling dengue at the mosquito level, now there are other ways of dealing with dengue at the human level, and that's vaccine.
Nah, kita selaku sekolah harus menyiapkan terlebih dahulu apa-apa yang supaya anak-anak tidak terkena DBD. Oke, dampaknya dari penyakit DBD itu sendiri memang meresahkan. Karena kita tahu bahwa DBD itu belum ada obatnya yang memang spesial untuk DBD itu sendiri. Tapi sekolah memfasilitasi 2 kali vaksin. Nah, makanya ini nanti akan dipantau dari Dinas Pendidikan. Setiap bulannya, mungkin bahkan tahunnya juga akan dipantau seperti apa dengan adanya vaksin DBD ini sendiri.
Balikpapan dipercaya untuk sebagai pilot project pelaksanaan vaksinasi demam berdarah dengue ini.
Mudah-mudahan tahun ini dengan kita ada kegiatan vaksinasi itu bisa menurun ya.
Kami selaku pendidik, kami pasti punya harapan yang besar ya terhadap anak-anak. Pastinya mereka harus sehat, karena generasi penerus itu memang harus sehat kita.
Moving forward, we probably have more ways and tools than we had in the past, say even 10 years or so, that perhaps makes me optimistic that we can bring this problem under control. We can actually make a big impact on protecting people from dengue.
Di Balikpapan, jadi suasana kebersamaannya, suasananya asrinya sama itunya sih yang saya benar-benar suka. Harapan saya orang tua itu semua berpikir seperti saya ya.
Dans notre pays, le paludisme, c'est la première endémie parasitaire. C'est la première cause d'hospitalisation et c'est la première cause de décès. En 2022, selon les données de notre rapport annuel au Togo, nous sommes à 235 pour 1000 habitants comme incidence du paludisme. Nous sommes un pays à transmission stable avec des variations saisonnières. À partir du mois de mai jusqu'au mois d'octobre-novembre, nous avons la saison pluvieuse où les cas augmentent jusqu'à 2 à 3 fois la normale. C'est les enfants qui paient le lourd tribut, surtout les enfants de moins de 5 ans. Si vraiment on arrive à sauver ces enfants-là, c'est que nous allons vraiment avancer beaucoup pour obtenir les résultats d'élimination.
Ki wudun ka jalata bem kana biya ko ma lo adana ti papa sa do ko na hawle ke tole ki ti ke tole bem no no ne de basar we ko bi da yo don du go ba ti bi hesa do le no jala ti tu ji bem ba na bem ti na sa bla kana ko ma ba sa ko na hawo to mo hesa bem.
Bayam Fusina, won't be a nole, Aluna Bal, Egana and a Catra demi. Metango, you want it days and ondo, it's a tatadondo, big bite. Aba Lady Sukule, one mose, not some Didi Mashadondo, Airdondo, and Abandepaka, Pogbo Ball of a Debaka Mosena. I nade, 11 day and on the Naja Haldana, Nan Nepon. Our yard did busy, and was on a bole. One door, one busy, was animin. Above a kidding one could go really one talk. Hala Balmut to wear Mr. Amara to Cornell of Tan to pay, Baby Father. Mother less, my baby 1 yard and getting on your mother less, mother less, mother less bound, my you father, my baby in a blow suit.
According to the 2023 World Malaria Report, 249 million cases of malaria were declared in 2022, and there were 608,000 deaths from malaria the same year. Seasonal malaria chemoprevention, in short SMC, is a malaria preventive intervention consisting of providing medicines to children during the period where the malaria transmission is the highest to prevent them from getting malaria.
L'OMS avait recommandé la CPS en 2012. En 2013, on avait commencé au Togo, dans une région, avec l'appui de l'UNICEF, dans un district. Et en 2016, avec l'impact que la CPS donne, nous avons fait l'extension de la CPS dans la région Kara et centrale.
Malaria Consortium est arrivé pour appuyer le Togo depuis 2020 dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre de la chimioprévention du paludisme saisonnier. On élabore le budget, on prévoit la période de la micro-planification où toutes les formations sanitaires connaissent leur population, leurs besoins en comprimés, en superviseurs, en équipe de distributeurs communautaires.
Nous avons dans tout le pays 7500 agents de santé communautaire.
2016. Que j'ai commencé à faire la CPS. Ma responsabilité, c'est de sensibiliser les gens à mieux comprendre le produit qu'on donne aux enfants. Avant les campagnes, on nous appelle pour la formation et on cherche le gongonneur qui va gongonner dans le village, qu'il y aura la CPS dans telle date. Les femmes attendent à la maison.
Dan nizi karnewa ada jelo karnewa ba nizi fadin ba fada na ba nizi fa aba nizi fadin bele banjeli da nan nizi kuru musinji jeren nizi me sin banja badal na nizi na tale ka ba da yanda kopin da ba bonyo nya ba bonyo bele fi kun ven na nyam ba kudu mu kudu ku ven ba kudu mu na bide plaquette wa.
Bon, je vois qu'après, la CPS, Palis s'est améliorée. Auparavant, c'était tellement difficile.
Since MMV is a product development partnership, one of our mandates is to provide malaria drugs that are adapted to the target population. There was a need to develop a child-friendly formulation of SPAQ because those days there were hard tablets that the health workers had to crush, mix with water to give to children. MMV worked with Goodwin Pharmaceutical and Escant Healthcare to have a child-friendly formulation. Subsequently, MMV has worked with Universal in Kenya, an African company, to also get SPAQ to a level that is pre-qualified by WHO.
Initialement, quand vous prenez les taux proportionnels de la maladie chez les enfants de moins de 5 ans, on était autour de 60%. Au jour d'aujourd'hui, nous sommes, par rapport à la charge de la morbidité, nous sommes autour de 35%.
Il faut évaluer tout ce qui a été fait et ça nécessite vraiment un autre niveau de planification et d'organisation, de coordination et aussi le financement.
Le financement du paludisme devait être endogène et exogène, mais bien sûr en tenant en considération le contexte particulier d'un pays et aussi vraiment impliquer le secteur privé.
Nous travaillons avec MMV, avec l'Alliance CPS. Grâce à cette alliance-là, au moins chaque année, tous les pays qui mettent en œuvre la CPS se retrouvent à partager leur expérience et parfois même à mobiliser des ressources supplémentaires pour la mise en œuvre efficace de la CPS.
Calum blaze. Posso suru pia. Pense kasoro ka bansi mun pe sosoro batal si big na no de pia. Ne pokasena. Tama ma de base to we base. Nas rasu sar ro nende mbi orhu tikero wala bi kleya. Ele baso soro.
Until 2022, SMC was recommended for children up to 5 years of age. But with the change of epidemiology and more cases of malaria in older age group, the WHO reviewed the guidelines and now SMC is recommended for children at high risk of severe malaria.
Nous sommes en train de faire une étude d'impact pour voir s'il faut vraiment faire l'extension de la cible de la CPS. Mais si l'étude d'impact a montré qu'avec ce que nous faisons chez les enfants de 3 à 59 mois, l'épidémie s'est déplacée pour aller vers les enfants de plus de 5 ans. Je crois qu'automatiquement, on va faire l'extension de la cible. Il y a cet engagement individuel et collectif-là que nous suscitons pour que vraiment les objectifs d'élimination puissent être atteints. Donc c'est vraiment notre rêve.
Fadel fadin kala kan zanada bare fadel fadin kan zanada suwe aba kon ba ba fadin ga nyawa fanya debu anya zola su blani debu soji nyam vai ga blai soji yawe an ta fa ngira wallahi bi soji laga da zola su basan da ba fada fadin dan vawo da nasu bon bi soji yawe.
In the heart of Jigawa State, Nigeria, lies a story of resilience, determination, and community support.
Ina makarantar allo a Kano, wannan abin ya same ni. A lokacin da na zo gida an ɗauka irin ƙiban nan ce haka ta samun hutu, to ashe ba ita bace ba, har sai da wata rana na rauni, raunin ya zama min zazzaɓi. A lokacin da na tashi ko iya takawa ba na yi da ƙafata.
Bayan shekara 5 kenan abin ya faru da shi. To shi ne da ya zo shi haka dai mun gan shi haka dai da ƙibarsa mun ɗauka haka ƙiba ce haka, to a rashin lafiya ne farkon shiga shi. Sai haɗu da zazzaɓi. Sai baban su ya dauke shi kai kemis, sai aka yi mar ƙarin ruwa, to tun daga wannan ƙarin ruwa shikenan.
Bana yawan shiga cikin mutane saboda wasu suna kallo na ko kuma wasu suna tsoro na, amma haka wani bako ko zan je wani gurin in dai an gani wasu suna nuna ni, wasu kuma suna gudu saboda sun gani. Gaskiya hakan ina jin ba daɗi sosai.
Akwai ƙanwata da take aikin asibiti, shine ta sanar da mu akan lallai ana neman mu a birnin Kudu mu je, to muka muka je mu, to shine fa muke ganin sauƙin abin a kayansa da rayuwar can kan da ne yanzu gaskiya ba ɗaya bane. Ai Allah.
This is the tale of Anas, a beneficiary of the Jigawa State Comprehensive and Inclusive NTDs project, Chiskola.
Sunana Anas Iliya, shekaru na 19. Ina ɗaya daga cikin wanda muka ci moriyar Chiskola.
Anas is unfortunately among the many who have consistently missed out on the LFMD over the years. And so when the Chiskola project was rolled out, Anas was identified and brought in as a person affected by NTDs. Anas is a very hard-working young man and also a very happy soul. He has bilateral lymphedema, but this has not kept him down. It has not deterred him from wanting to make something out of his life and also to contribute to the development of his community. Anas has benefited so far from the livelihood component of the Chiskola project and also from the WASH component of the Chiskola project. You could see how he was eager to learn what they were being taught, and after the training, he immediately set out to see how he could fix the broken down boreholes in his community. And I'm sure that this has offered relief to his community and also helped him to be reintegrated into the community and restored his hope at having a normal life.
Koya an masa horo ya koya kuma Allah da ikonsa ya iya. Akwai tuƙa-tuƙan mu ya kai guda 10 daga ciki mun samu 6 ma sun lalace jama'a suna shan wahala ta ruwa. To Anas ya je masa complain ya je ya gyara mana jama'a suna ta godiya, to mun yi godiya akan wannan. Kuma baya da haka Anas da jama'a suna kyamarsa. Yanzu kuma sun ga abun ba ma abu ne na kyama ba. Har gurin su suke zuwa daga ciki ma yanzu har sallama yana jan jama'a. Kuma gona ma in ya tafi tare suke tafiya da jama'a.
Wannan tallafi da Anas ya samu ya canza rayuwarsa ta yi kyau. Abin da zai yi ne wanda da yakan baya more kansa zai iya amfanin kansa. Wato alhamdulillah na gode wannan kungiya da ta tallafa wa Anas. Na gode Allah saka mata da alkhairi.
Gaskiya na ji daɗin shirin Chiskola saboda sun ɗauke ni da muhimmanci, sun dawo min da rayuwa na sabo gaskiya sosai, ba kamar yadda nake yin ta kafin na same su ba.
Anas's journey from adversity to empowerment has transformed not only his life but the lives of everyone around him, and it is evident that the Chiskola project has brought hope where it was once scarce. This project is supported by CBM Global Disability Inclusion and implemented by Health and Development Support Program HANDS in collaboration with the Jigawa State Government.
ليجي سلام يقولنا ليس ليه بتعمل يا سكينة لا عرفت سكينة
በነገው ቁስል አይወጣም ማታ ነው
ማታ ስተኛ በቃ ያሳክከኛል
በቃ 12 ሰዓት በኋላ ነው የሚጀምረው በጣም ያምነው 12 ሰዓት እንደዚህ በቃ ፀሐይ እንደመግባት ካለችው ማታ በኋላ በጣም ሌሊት ነው በጣም ያምነው ቀን ብዙም አይደለም ማታ እንደዚህ እንደ ጀንበር እንደመግባት ካለች 12 ሰዓት በኋላ ማታ በቃ እኛ ራሱ በእኛ ሀገር መሸግሬ ምናምን ነው ማታ በጣም ስለሚያሳክከን ማለት ነው መሸግሬ ምናምን ነው ኬስፐልስ ይባላል እና እስከ ሰኞ እኔ ከብቶችን ይዤ እወጣለሁ። እሷ ቁርስ ታዘጋጃለች። ሰርተን ወደ ከብት በበዓል ቀን ማልደን ተነስተን ከብቶች ለህፃናቶች ሰጠን ቤተክርስቲያን እንሳለማለን። ቄስ ነኝ።
ስሜ መራጽድቅ መብት መኮንን እባላለሁ። በምስራቅ ጎጃም በደብረ ኤልያስ ወረዳ እማራለሁ። የቆሎ ተማሪ ነኝ።
ይታያል ካሳሁን በረሪ 6ኛ ክፍል ተማሪ ነኝ።
ይታያል ካሳሁን አባት ነኝ።
ስሜ ኃይለ ማርያም ተካባለ የመጣው ከደቡብ ጎንደር ነው። በደብረ ኤልያስ ቅኔ ጉባኤ ነው የምማረው።
ያው እንግዲህ አብዛኛውን ጊዜ በቆዳ ላይ የሚራባ በሽታ ነው። ይህንን በሽታ የምታመጣው እንግዲህ ሳርኮፓተስ ስካቢ ቫርቲ ሁማነስ በምትባል የቅንቅን ወይም የቅማል ዘር ነው። እዚች አብዛኛውን ጊዜ በሰው ቆዳ ላይ እንቁላሏን በመጣል ነው የምትራባው። እዚህ ወደ ሰውነታችን ቆዳ ቦርቦራ ከገባች በኋላ ከ2 ሳምንት እስከ 3 ሳምንት ባለው እንቁላሏን እየወጣች ወደ ጫፍ ትጥላለች። እነዚህ እንቁላሎች ደግሞ የሰውነት ቆዳን እየቦረቦሩ ያው ምግባቸው የሰውነት ቆዳ ላይ ያሉ ሴሎችን ስለሆነ ከዚያ ላይ እየተራቡ ይሄዳሉ ማለት ነው።
ወደኛ ጋር ሲመጡ ማለት ነው አንደኛ ኢቺንግ ኦፍ ዘ ላይን ቆዳቸውን ያሳካቸዋል። ሁለተኛ ደግሞ ፓምፕል ላይክ ስኪን ራሽ ይኖራቸዋል ማለት ነው እኛ ጋር ሲመጡ እና ስለዚህ ሲምፕተሞቹ እነዚህ ናቸው።
እከክ እንደያዘ ማውቀው መጀመሪያ ሲነሳ ያሳክከኛል፣ ይበላኛልና ያሳክከኛል። አዛም በኋላ ይፈርጣል፣ የመፍረጥ ማይሪ ያመጣና አዛም በኋላ በቃ ያመኛል። በቃ አዛም በኋላ
መጀመሪያ እንደ ትንሽ አሳከከኝ። ከዚያም በኋላ እየቀደም እየባሰነ እጅ እየበጠ ሀደ እየቆሰለ መጣ።
ለሁለት ሳምንት ያህል በጣም አልጎ ነው ያሳከከው። በቃ ይሄን አያሽ አንገቱ ሁላ እንደዚህ ነበር የሚሸቀሽቅ። እየበላ ራሱ እንዲህ ይላል። እየበላ በቃ ምግብ እየበላ እንዲህ ይላል። አንተ ለምን ነው ስለው በቃ በላኝ ላይ ነበር።
በቃ ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ የቆየ በሽታ ነው፣ አዲስ የምንለው አይደለም። ኢቭን በአማርኛም ስም አለው ራሱን የቻለ እና ነባር ከሚባሉት በሽታዎች መካከል ነው። ስፔሻሊ በገጠሩ የማህበረሰብ ክፍል አካባቢ በደንብ የሚታወቅ በሽታ ነው። ነገር ግን እንደ ወረርሽኝ የተከሰተው ባለፉት 5 ዓመታት ጀምሮ ነው።
ወረርሽኝ የተከሰተው እንግዲህ በደብረ ኤልያስ 4 የጤና ጣቢያ ሳይቶች አሉ። ከነሱ ውስጥ እንግዲህ ጓይ ላይ ነው መጀመሪያ የተከሰተው በ2013 አካባቢ ነው። በ2013 ጀመረ። 2013 ላይ በጣም ጎልቶ ወጣ። አጠቃላይ እዚህ የሚመጣው ኬዝ ስናየው በጣም እየጎላ ሲመጣ አሰስ ማድረግ ጀመረ። ቀበሌ እየወጣን አሰስ ስናደርግ በቀጥታ እዚህ ጋር ነበሩ የቆሎ ተማሪዎች። እነሱ ጋር ስንሄድ አጠቃላይ ሁሉም ሰው ታሟል። ከዛ በኋላ በየማህበረሰቡ ስንገባ አብዛኛው ማለት ይቻላል 80% የሚሆነው ሰው በቃ እንዳለ ታሟል።
በጣም እየጨመረ የመጣበት መንገድ ነበር። ለማሳየትም እንደሞከር ነው እንግዲህ እዚህ ላይ ቻርት ራሱ ሰርተን እየተከታተል ነው ነበር ወደ የት እየሄደ ነው የሚለው። እዚህ የሆነ ወቅት በጣም እየጨመረ ነበር። ስለዚህ ንጽህና ሲጠበቅ መድኃኒት ሲመጣ የመቀነስ ነገር አለው። መድኃኒቱ ደግሞ ሲጠፋ ኢንተራፕት ሲያደርግ የተወሰነ እንትን አለው።
እከክ በሽታ ያው ተንጽህና ጉድለትና ከውሃ ብክለት የሚመጣ በሽታ ነው። ከውሃ እጥረትም በአብዛኛው ይከሰታል። ይሄንን በአብዛኛው ከንጽህና ጉድለት ነው፣ ከአካባቢ ንጽህና ጉድለት ማለት ነው።
ከጤና ባለሙያዎችም እንደተረዳሁት እከክ ብዙ ጊዜ ንጽህናን ካለመጠበቅ ጋር፣ ልብስን በሰዓቱ ካለማጠብ ጋር፣ ሰውነትን ካለመታጠብ ጋር ያገናኙታል።
የምንቀዳበት 30 ደቂቃ ይወስዳል። ከዚያም ሄዶ ወረፋ አለው። ደሞም ጭቃው ጉድጓድ ነው። ከጉድጓድ ዝም ብሎ ፋሳሽ ነው። አውሬ ምናምን ሽንት አይጠበቅም። ወንዝ ነው። ወንዝ ደግሞ ብዙም አካባቢ ደግሞ የለውም እና ወንዝ ቦታ ሌላ ቦታ ነው ሄደን የምንቀዳ እና በእንደዛ ስለሆነ ለሻወር የሚበቃ ወንዝም የለውም ራሱ ቦታ
ውሃ የለንም። ቢኖርም ደግሞ ፈረሱ ምኑ ይከፍቱ ምኑ የሆነበት ነው የምንታጠው። በቂ ኦሞ የለንም። ውሃ የምንታጠው የለንም። ሰውነታችን የምንታጠው እንደዚህ የከፍት ተቀጥቀው ምናምን ስለሆነ ውሃ ስለማናገኝ ምንም ነገር የለም።
ሻወር የምንወስደው ብዙ ጊዜ ቆይተን ያው በቃ ላብ ምናምን ያለበናል እንደዛ ይለናል። ንጽህናችን ባለመጠበቅ ምክንያት እንደዛ ነው የሚይዘን። ንጽህና ያለው ውሃ በቅርብ አናገኝም። ውሃ ሲጀምር ለምንጠጣው ራሱ ምንጠጣው ውሃ ራሱ ንጹህ አይደለም።
ሰውነታችን ውሃ ስለሌለ ስለማይኖር ከሁለት ሰዓት አንድ ቀን ነው ልብሳችን ደግሞ የምናጠው። እንደዛ ከወር አንድ ቀን እንደዛ ነው። የውሃ ችግር በጣም ስላለ እንደዚህ ስለማናጠው እንደዚህ ከዚህ ከንጽህና አኳያ ከክ ይነሳብና ማለት ነው።
ማታ ሲሆን ነው ስናከው አመር ነው የሚያወጣ። እንዲህ ስናከው አመር ነው የሚያወጣ። ሌላ ደም ምናምን አይወጣ።
እንደዚህ ሲመሽ ወደ ማታ ሲሆን በጣም ያሳክከኝ ያሳሸኛል። እዛ ያካኩት በጣም በቃ ደስ ወደው ሳከው ደስ እና ይደማል።
ይኸው እንደሚታወቀው ወከክ ሁሉንም የህብረተሰብ ክፍል ያጠቃል። ግን በዋናነት የሚያጠቃቸው የህብረተሰብ ክፍል አሉ ማለት እንደ ቆሎ ተማሪዎች ማለት ስብስብ ብለው የሚኖሩ ማህበረሰብ አይነት ማለት ነው።
በጤና ተቋማችን ደረጃ የተከሰተው ቆሎ ተማሪዎች ጋር ነው።
6 7 እስከ 8 የሚቀመጥ አለ። እኛ ግን 5 ነን የቆየ ነው እስካሁን ድረስ። ከኛ አሁን ከአንድ ቤት ከምንኖረው ተማሪዎች ውስጥ አንድ ተማሪ እከክታም
እነሱ ጋር ነኝ። ቤት ስለሌለ ስለጠበበን ምንም መር ስለማንችል ያው እነሱም እየፈሩ እንደዛ አንድ ላይ ነው ዝም ብለን የምንቀመጥ።
አብዛኛውን ጊዜ የምትኖረውና የምታጠቀው እንደ ተፋፍጎ በሚኖረው ማህበረሰብ አካባቢ እንደ ተፈናቃይ ባለበት አካባቢ እንደ ሀብነት ትምህርት ቤቶች አካባቢ እነዚህ አካባቢ የሚኖር ለምንድን ነው የሃይጂን ሳኒቴሽን ወይም የንጽህና ጉድለት ስለሚታይ ነው። ምክንያቱም እነዚህ ሰዎች ንጹህ ውሃ በቂ ውሃ ያገኙም የተመጣጠነ ምግብ ላይ ያገኙ ይችላሉ። ስለዚህ በሆነበት አጋጣሚ እሷ በብዛት የመራባት እድል ይኖራታል። ከዚህ አካባቢ ያሉ ሰዎች ደግሞ የሚኖሩትም ተደጋግፈው በአንድ ላይ አብረው በማስ ስለሚኖሩ ንክኪያቸውን በጣም የበለጠ ስለሆነ እዚህ አካባቢ ወከኳ በብዛት ትሰፋለች። የስርጭት ሂደቷም ለሷ አፋጣኝ ነው። ቀጥታ ከሰው ወደ ሰው ንክኪ ስለሆነ በንክኪ ሊሆን ይችላል። ከሰው ወደ ሰው እቃዎችን በመነካካት ለምሳሌ ክሎዝ የምንላቸው ልብስ አልባሳትን እሱ የለበሰውን ፎጣ ወይም ጋቢ ምናምን የምንለብስ ከሆነ እሷ ልብሱ ላይ ታርፋለች። በሚታ አጋጣሚ ሊሆን ይችላል። ከዚያ ላይ ወደ ሌላው ሰው ትተላለፋለች ማለት ነው።
መከላከል የምንችልበት ዘዴ አብረን ልብስ ባለመጓዋስና አብረን ባለመተኛት እናውቅ ነበር። ግን የቤቱ ችግር አብረን በቃ ሌላ ቤት ትርፍ ቤት ለሱ ለብቻው አንድ ቤት ስለማያገኝ በመኝታ በመናምን ይዘናል እንዳ ነው ያዘን የነበረው ወደፊትም እና አሁንም አብረን መኖራችንን እንትን ማለት አንቻልንም። የቤት በማጣት ጎጆ በማጣት ምክንያት ማለት ነው። እና አብሮን ነው የሚተኛ ዛሬ እና ልጁ እሱ ደግሞ በጣም ተይዟል አሁን።
አያስጠጋንኛን ወደኛ ታስተላልፋለ ይላሉ። እንደዚህ ስለማ አምኒታ ደግሞ ራቅ ብለተኛ እንደዛ ስለሚሉ እንደዚህ ነገር ተጽዕኖ ያደርስብናል።
አንተ ጉጽ ፋራም ወደዛ አሁን በቃ ተጨመረ ነው ወይ አብረና ተቀመጥ ወይም ወደ ቤተሰብ ተታከም እና አብረና ተተኛ ተሞካማ አጠጋን ታሲዘናለህ። በዚህ ነው አብረን እንዳይኖር ምን ፈልገው
ከክ ማለት ያው በግዝ ጉጽ ፋር ነው የሚባለው እና እንደዛ ለምሳሌ አሁን አንተ አትጠጋ ነው ጉጽ ፋራም እንደዚህ ምናምን ይላል።
እነዚህ በራሱ አንድን ሰው ለመስደብ ዝቅ ለማድረግ ለማግለል የሚጠቀሙባቸው ናቸው እና ከዚህ ጋር ተያይዞ በከክ የተያዙ ሰዎች ራሳቸውን የማግለል በራሳቸው የማፈር ስሜት ወይም የሰልፍ ስቲግማ የምንለው በደንብ ያለ ነገር ነው።
ከክ ያለው ሰው በብዛት ራሱ ሳይኮ ስለሚያሸማቀቀው ከማህበረሰብ የመጨመር እድል ላይኖረው ይችላል። ምክንያቱም ሰላም ለማለትም ሊፈራ ይችላል። ምክንያቱም በብዛት ከክምታጠቀው እጅ ላይ ብብት አካባቢ መቀመጫ አካባቢ እንደዚህ ብልት አካባቢ እነዚህ አካባቢ በብዛት ሆድና ጀርባ አካባቢ በብዛት ይሰፋል እና ይሄ ስለሆነ በብዛት እጅ አካባቢ ካለች ሰው ስለሚያየው ራሱ ሳይኮሎጂ ሊያሸማቅቃቸው ይችላል።
እዚህ ጋር እንደውም በተግባር ያየሁት ነገር አለ። የሆነ የ12ኛ ክፍል ተማሪ ነው እና ሳከመው ምንድነው ያለኝ እየተሳቀቅኩ ጓንት ለብሷል። እንደውም እንደዚህ አድርጎ የሆነ የራሱን ጓንት ለብሶ ለምንድነው እንደዚህ ያረክ ስለው እኔ ከህመሙ የበለጠ መሳቀቂ በቃ ሌላ ነገር ወደ ሌላ ትርጓሜ ምን ሆነ ነው ያሉኝ ለመጨባበጥ ሁላ ስላልቻልኩኝ በቃ ከህመሙ የበለጠኝ መሳቀቁ ነው ምናምን ያለበት ደረጃ አለና በጣም አስከፊና አሰቃቂ ነው ማለት ወደ ሌላ ስም ነው የሚሰጡት ሰዎች ምን ሆነ ነው ምንድነው የበከለ እስከምባል ድረስ ደርሻለሁ ያለኝ ሰው በተጨባጭ አለና እስከዚህ ድረስ አስከፊ ነው በጣም።
በዚሁ በበሽታው ምክንያት ከትምህርት ቤት ቀርቼ ከቤቱ እየዋልኩ ከብቶችን ማበላ
እንግዲህ ያው የዛሬው ቀን ሁለተኛ ሳምንቱ ማለት ነው አቆመ።
ለምሳሌ ከጓደኛ ጋር እንዳሻይ መጫወት አልችልም ነው ያለው። መነካካት ምናምን አልችልም። በዛ ላይ እኔም ራሱ አፍርበታለሁ በጣም ነው ማፈር እንደዚህ ነዶ ሳይው በጣም እናደዳለሁ ምናምን ነው የሚለው። እንደ
ስድብ መቆጠሩ ራሱ ከምን ጋር ነው የሚገናኘው? በቃ ዝቅተኛ ኑሮ የሚኖር ሰው ከካም ከተባለ አንድ ሰው ሳይኖርበት ኢቭን የሚያሳክከው ቁስሉ ነገር ሳይኖርበት ከካም ከተባለ ድሃ ከድህነት ጋር ማገናኘት እንደዛ አይነት ነገር ስለሆነ የሚያሳፍር ነገር ነው። አስቀያሚ በሽታ አድርገው ነው የሚወስዱት
እና እኔ የምናደድ ባይሪ ይስመኛል ሰላም
ሰው ፊት ቆመሽ እንደዚህ ማካክ ምናምን ያስቸግራል እና ያስጠላል። በፊት ለመናገር የሚቸገራሉ ለኛ ለባለሙያዎች ራሱ አይናገሩም እንኳን ለሌላ ሰው አልፈው ማለት ነው።
አልተናገሩም። ምን አይነት ነገር መጣብኝ እያልኩ በጣም በውስጤ ነው እዚያው በውስጣችን ቤተሰብ ቤት ውስጥ የተደረገው ነገር የሰው አይነገር። እነሱን ጤና መድን እየተባለ ተምናደክማቸው ብለን በጸበሉን በምኑ ቆይተና
ሲብስበት ነው ማለት ነው። በእለቱ እንትን እንዳለ አልወሰድንም። በጣም ሲጎዳው ነው የወሰድነው።
ልክ በጣም አላስጠጋቸው ሲል ወይም ህመም ስሜቱ ሲበረታ በዛ ላይ ደግሞ አላሰራቸው ሲል ተማሪዎች ሁሉ አስተመጻፍ ሁሉ ተቸግረው የነበሩበት ሁኔታ አለ። በዚያ አግባብ ይመጣሉ እንጂ በፊት ላይ ያው ቀደም ብለው ምን አጋጠመኝ ብለው ወደዚህ አይመጡ ነበር።
በፍጥነት ወደ ሐኪም ቤት ያለ መሄድ ነገር አለ። በበሽታው ባህሪም ለዚህ አስተዋጽኦ አድርጓል። ስፔሻሊ ሌሊት ላይ ነው ወደም የሚበረታው የሚያሳክካቸው። ሌሊት እንቅልፍ አጥተው ያድራሉ በከኩ ተጠምደው። ከዛ ሲነጋ ይረሱትና በግብርና ሙያ የሚተዳደሩ ስለሆኑ እዛ ደብረ ኤልያስ ያጠናቸው የአብዛኞቹ የማህበረሰብ ክፍሎች ወደ ስራቸው ነው የሚሄዱት። ሲነጋ ይረሱታል እና የበዓል ቀን በዓላት በሚከበሩ ሰዓት ጠብቀው ምናምን ነው ወደ ሐኪም ቤት የሚሄዱት።
ምናምን ስለሌለን ያው እንደዚህ ራቅ ብለን ስለመጣን ብር ምናምን ስለሌለን እንደዚህ ስላልሰራን ሄደን ብር ስለሌለን አልጠየቅንም።
ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ
ከዘመናዊ ትምህርት አስቀድሞ እስካሁን ድረስ የአብነት ትምህርት ቤት ዋነኛው የእውቀት መቅሰሚያ ቦታ ነው። የተለያዩ የትምህርት ደረጃዎችም አሉት። ተማሪዎቹ ከተለያዩ ቦታዎች በመሰብሰብ በትንሽ ጎጆ ውስጥ በርከት ብለው ይኖራሉ። ይህ ሁኔታም በቀላሉ እንዲይዛቸው ስለሚያደርግ በቀላሉ ሕክምናም ደግሞ ማግኘት ስለማይችሉ ብዙ ጊዜ የተማሪ በሽታ እየተባለ ይጠራል።
ቤት ምናምንኛም ደግሞ በጉባኤ ስለምንኖር ወይ ጤና መድን ደግሞ ከቤተሰብ ነው እንጂ እኛ ቤተሰቦቻችን ግላችን ስለማንዞር ወይ ሂሳብ ወይ ላይ ኖር ይችላል። በጊዜው ደግሞ ታከም ይችላል። አንድ ወደ አንዱ ይያላ ብዙ ሁሉም ተማሪ ይዞ ይችላል። በአንድ ተማሪ አንድ ጉባኤ አንድ ሌላ ጉባኤ አንድ ተማሪ ይዞት ከመጣ ሀዚህ ላለው ጉባኤ ተማሪ ይበቃል።
ትምህርታቸውን ለመቀጠል የቆሎ ተማሪዎች ከተለያዩ አካባቢዎች ነው የሚመጡት። በመሆኑም ትምህርታቸውን እስከሚጨርሱ ድረስ በሚሄዱበት አካባቢ ሁሉ በልመና ነው የሚበሉትን የሚያገኙት። ምክንያቱም ተማሪዎቹ ከቤተሰቦቻቸው ርቀው ነው ያሉት። ስለዚህ ለዕለት ምግባቸው የሚሆነውን ነገር ማግኘት የሚችሉት እዛው ያለው የአካባቢው ነዋሪ በልመና በሚሰማሩበት ጊዜ የሚሰጣቸውን ነገር እሱን አዘጋጅተው ነው መመገብ የሚችሉት።
ሰላም ቦቱ ሰክወ ነው
ትክክል ነው። ጥያቄው ይነሳል። በተለይ በእነዚህ የቆሎ ተማሪ በሚባሉት በኩል አንደኛ አካባቢ ርቀው ነው የሚመጡ፣ ገንዘብም የላቸውም፣ ይሄ ነፃ ሕክምና የሚባለውም የላቸውም እና በእነሱ በኩል ያው ህመሙ የሚጸናባቸዋል። ጥያቄውን በእነሱ በኩል ነው አብዛኛውን የሚመጣ።
በኢኮኖሚ ደረጃ ሲጀመር ስኬቢስ የድሃ በሽታ ነው የሚባለው። ለምሳሌ ፕሪሜትሪያን ፍሪ ነው የሚታደለው። ሌሎች ግን በፕራይስ አላቸው ራሱ የቻለ።
እንደ ጤና ተቋም አንድ መድኃኒት በበጀት ማለት ብር ተከፍሎ ጤና ጣቢያው ብር ከፍሎ ከሆነ ያመጣው ያን መድኃኒት በነፃ ማደል አይችልም፣ ምክንያቱም ይከስራል። ግን እንደ ቅድም እንዳልኩሽ ተሰርቶ ፐርሰንቱ እዚህ አካባቢ ከዚያ ከተባለው ከ15% በላይ ከሆነ እንደ ወረዳ ማለት ነው፣ ከዚያ በላይ ከሆነ ከሌሎች አካላት ጋር ተነጋግሮ በነፃ ሕክምና የሚሰጥበት መንገድ አለ።
ያው ሕክምናው ሁለት አይነት ነው ያልኩት። አንድ በዘመቻ መልክ ለአጠቃላይ ለሁሉም ማህበረሰብ የሚሰጥበት መንገድ አለ። ሁለተኛ ሴሌክቲቭ ኬዝ እና ኮንታክት የምናከምበት አለ። ስለዚህ ስናደርግ ምንድነው በብዛት የኛውን ሬሾውን ስንሰራው አጠቃላይ የከክሙማን ሲካፈል ለቀበሌው ህዝብ በዛሽ ቀበሌ ወይም በዛሽ ጎጥ ላለው ህዝብ ከ15% እና በላይ ከሆነ እንግዲህ ትሪትመንት ጋይድ ላይ የሚያዘው ወይም የሕክምና መመሪያ የሚያዘው ከ15% እና በላይ ከሆነ ሁሉንም ማህበረሰብ ማስ ትሪትመንት አድሚኒስትሬሽን ነው። ለሁሉም ማህበረሰብ መድኃኒት በዘመቻ መልክ ለሁሉም መታደል መቻል አለበት ነው። ከኪኖርበትም አይኖርበትም የዛችን ጎጥ ወይም የዛችን ቀበሌ ከክሙማን ለጠቅላላ ህዝብ አካፍለን ከ15% እና በታች ከሆነ ኮንታክት እና ያው ኬዝ ያለባቸው ሰዎች ተለይተው ይታከማሉ።
የወከክ በአብዛኛው እኛ ቤት ለቤትም ስለምንሰራ በአብዛኛው ስነድ የከክ በሽታ እናገኛልና እነሱን ለይተን ይዝና እነሱም ከንጽህና ጉድለት እንደሆነ በደንብ የግንዛቤ ማስጨበጫ እንሰጣቸዋለን። ከዚያ ውጭ መጥተው ሊታከሙና ወደፊትም እንዳይዛቸው ከበሽተኛ ወደ ጤነኛ ለሚተላለፍ የበሽታ በንጽህና እንዲጠብቁ ምናምን ትምህርቱን ሰጠን ሕክምናውን እንሰጣቸዋለን።
ህክምናው ያው በሚዋጥ መልክም አለ በሚቀባ መልክም አለ ፕሪሜትሪን ይባላል ሳልፈር አለ አይቨርሜክቲን አለ በእነዚህ መድኃኒቶች እንደድሚያቸው እና እንደ መድኃኒት ሴፍ እንደ ሁኔታው ህክምና ይሰጣል ማለት ነው።
ኋላ ስነድ ግን ይተላለፋል የበሽታ ኑ ይዛችኋቸው ኑ ተባል እኛም ተረዳን እኛ ስንድን የውዜው ቤተሰቦች እንደሞ እንድትልካቸው ተባል ማታ ጊዜ ህፃኗም ታማ ነበር ተቀርጻለች ምትታየናት ያቺ ማህሪች የው የሚቀባ ብትቀባ ኖርማል ሆኖ አሁን ኖርማል ሆነና
የሚቀባ መድኃኒት ጤና ጣቢያዎች ሰጠውት ያን መድኃኒት ያው በደንብ ልብሱ ታጥቦ ሰውነቱን በደንብ ታጥቦ መቀባት አለበት አሉ። በቃ ያንን ልብሱ ሁላ የታጠበ ኩታ ነበር አዲስ ኩታ ያንን ሰውነት ውልቅ አድርገን አጥበነ ማታ ያን ቀብተነው አደርን።
አሁን ድነናል ኖርማል ሆነናል። አሁን እኛ እያመሰገን ነው ይሄ ጤና መድን በጣም ትልቅ ተስፋ አለው እያልሁ ማስረዳ እኔ ማስተማር የምችል
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How are you?
We are fine.
Are you ready for this evening story?
Yes.
How many of you remember what we discussed last week? Yes, Losette?
Last week we discussed about leadership and we looked at great African leaders.
Wow. Who was our favorite African leader?
Nelson Mandela.
Wow, very good. So today I'm going to tell you a story from Grandpa's diary, which features on neglected tropical diseases in Africa and how he managed to overcome them during his time. Grandpa journeyed to a country close to us, and one key problem he encountered was intestinal worm infestation, which affected most of the children academically and health-wise. So he went there as a teacher, and one day, one of the children came to school with a sack of books dangling. In a moment, what seemed like a simple stomach pain grew to uncontrollable weeping, and he started vomiting. So they took him to the local herbalist, and she gave him pawpaw seeds and leaves, but it didn't work. So the herbalist said, "This is the punishment from the sun god." But Grandpa knew differently, so he decided to take him to the nearby hospital. And later, he introduced health talks in the community, and the goal was to get the community well informed on health and hygiene. So by his study, he came across a group of diseases, and that group of diseases is called neglected tropical diseases. This disease affects more than 1.7 billion people in the world who are mostly poor and puts many children like you out of the school. Do you know what a billion is?
No.
A billion is 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000. That's a lot of people, and we need all hands on deck to handle this issue at the basal level. So the story of today was so sad, but the good news is that we can all play a role to prevent these diseases by keeping personal hygiene and good sanitation. So after knowing these things, what else do you think you can do to help eliminate these diseases? Yes, Blessing?
I will study very hard to become a nurse to fight these diseases.
Wow, very good. Another one? Yes, Losette?
I don't want to be a nurse. I want to become a teacher and help to fight the issues of neglected tropical diseases.
Yes. Another one? Yes, Pamela?
I will always drink clean water.
Yes. So, is there any other question?
No.
So, let's conclude by saying that everyone is needed, from the little children like you to highly educated, mature people. So, thank you for today.
Thank you too.
Let's all stand up. Are we committed?
Yes, we are 100% committed to end neglected tropical diseases.
Hola, soy Carlos Chagas. Hace más de 100 años descubrí el primer caso de la enfermedad que hoy lleva mi nombre. Vamos a conocer mejor de qué se trata. Empecemos. Les presento a Facundo, a Daniel, a María y su hija Ana. Todos ellos tienen la enfermedad de Chagas.
Pero, doctor, ¿cómo puede ser? El Chagas es una enfermedad de zonas rurales. Yo vivo en la ciudad.
Eso cambió. Las migraciones hicieron que hoy podamos encontrar Chagas tanto en el campo como en las ciudades. Empecemos por Facundo. Vives en una casa en el campo y el insecto que transmite la enfermedad te picó mientras dormías. Por eso, entre otras medidas, la aplicación de insecticidas en las viviendas y sus alrededores es una de las claves para combatir al insecto vector de esta enfermedad.
Doctor, yo estuve en el campo de visita, pero a mí no me picó ningún insecto, se lo aseguro.
Daniel, en tu caso fue por la ingesta de un jugo de caña en donde el insecto infectado con el parásito fue triturado con el resto de los ingredientes. Para evitar esta forma de contagio, debemos prestar especial atención a la higiene en la preparación de alimentos y bebidas.
Pero doctor, acá desinfectan constantemente. Estoy en un hospital.
Daniel volvió a la ciudad sin saber que estaba infectado. Donó sangre y esa transfusión la recibiste tú, María. Es muy importante que la sangre para transfundir sea adecuadamente analizada. Quien tiene Chagas no puede donar sangre.
Y luego mi hija Ana.
Una madre infectada puede transmitir el Chagas a su hijo durante el embarazo. Contar con un diagnóstico temprano es fundamental para tener mayores posibilidades de cura. Por eso, unidos e informados, podemos ganarle al Chagas. Todo lo que necesitamos es tu atención.
Trachoma, a painful disease of the eyes, is the major cause of blindness or visual impairment in 1.9 million people worldwide. The eye infection is a major public health concern in 44 countries and causes irreversible blindness if left untreated. Trachoma spreads through direct and indirect contact with an infected person's hands, clothes, nose and eye discharges, or through infected flies. This disease belongs to a group of 20 debilitating diseases, collectively known as neglected tropical diseases, or NTDs. These diseases affect about 1.9 billion people worldwide. According to the World Health Organization, Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria, carries the highest burden of NTDs on the continent. Over 100 million people risk contracting at least one of the 20 NTDs. This group of diseases includes trachoma, leprosy, and river blindness. They are endemic in many parts of Nigeria, particularly among people in areas without adequate access to water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities. I traveled to Magamarjibia, a rural town in Katsina, northwestern Nigeria, to meet Rahila Abubakar. Rahila Abubakar got infected with trachoma about 15 years ago. This is Rahila's story.
Sunana Rahila Abubakar. An haife ni a garin Magama a ƙaramar hukumar Jibiya, wanda tana ƙarƙashin jihar Katsina. Sannan an haife ni da larurar rashin gani, sai dai ba gaba ɗaya ba. Sai dai yanayin lokaci, yanayi yana canjawa, shekaru na tafiya, yana ƙara ragewa. Tun ina dai ƙarama haka sai Allah yi nashi ikon gaba ɗaya. To da hakan ya faru, iyayena ba su yi ƙasa a gwiwa ba, domin sun samu labarin makarantar irin makarantarmu. Ni ma sai suka kai ni kamar yadda sauran 'yan uwana za su tashi da nasu ilimin, ni ma kuma in tashi da nawa domin in yi dogaro da kaina. An kai ni na fara primary school a nan makarantar masu larurar gani da ke Katsina, wanda wasu suka fi sani a ce school for the blind. Na yi primary ɗina a nan, sannan kuma a nan na yi secondary school ɗina. To bayan na gama secondary school shekarar da za mu gama mun je mun yi jam. Alhamdulillah na samu na ci jam'ina sosai ta yadda in zan samu ba NCE ba har digiri zan iya wucewa da makin jam'ina. To kalubalen da na fara fuskanta na jarabawa ita ce ba ta yi kyau sosai ba. Na samu har na FCE sun ɗauke ni zan je zan yi karatu a nan, to sai dai matsalar da aka samu kwas ɗin da na cike ba shi suka bani ba. A lokacin ni na cike Islamic Source, to su kuma sai suka bani Hausa Igbo, suka ce ba za su bani wancan wanda na cike ba. To ni har ga Allah yadda nake son dai karatun na yadda zan yi Hausa Igbo. Har makarantar ma dai mun je, to a lokacin da muka je kuma yan hostel haka ba a fara dawowa ba, to kuma ba za su ba mu yanayin ɗaki irin mu kaɗai ba, sai an haɗa tare da masu gari. To sai muka dawo gida. Bayan mun dawo sai dai haka abubuwa suka ta ɗan tasowa na surutu, yaren da ba nawa ba zan yi wuya in gane shi tun da yanzu ne zan fara koyan shi, sannan kuma ba mutane da yawa ne ke karanta irin yaren ba. A bincike ma da aka gano mutane biyu ne ina tunanin kaɗai ke cikin kwas ɗin, sannan kuma ba bodin suke ba dai suke yi. Haka dai zan yi wuyar samun su har mu haɗu mu je wurin lakta da sauransu. Daga nan kawai dai sai aka bar maganar, shi kenan ba a tafi makarantar ba. A yau wata shekara kuma na sake yin wata jam ɗin, ita ma kuma na ci. To amma ita kawai kalubale ne na rayuwa da kuma dai za a ce yanayin rayuwa ya sa ban wuce ba, saboda lokacin da na yi jam ɗin mahaifina har lokacin ma dan tafi makaranta yana da gurin in tafi makaranta. So sai dai mutum yana yin tashi, Allah kuma na yin tashi. Lokacin sai ya kasance bai da abin da zai yi mai wanda zan tafiya makaranta, shine ya hana ni zuwa makaranta.
Rahila's father, Malam Abubakar Sulaiman, was born in Maradi, Niger Republic. The 68-year-old says he migrated to Jibia in Katsina to study the Quran, but later settled there with his family. Abubakar says he feels unhappy about his daughter's blindness and inability to further her studies.
muna dan ganin kamar abun kamar ko ciwon ido ne ko wani abun nan haka ana aka dan ta zama haka nan ayi wannan inda aka ce akwai magani sai mu je, inda aka ce akwai da a samu magani sai mu je bakin gurgudu duk inda ake dai dan kokarta ne mai dai magani ta samu lafiya to an yi abin dai abin Allah dai bai musa aka dace ba aka yi hakuri haka nan shine muna nan da aka ce ana akwai wanda ake zuwa suke ake karatu da nasu sai muka samu muka je ma kai ta shi ne tun muka ta da makarantar alhamdulillah bakin gwargwado gaskiya tana kokari sau da shi sa ni kuma daman Allah ce muke ni daman ni dai daman ba na san bara ko su ma ba su wanda ba san bara nan shi ne sai muka zanna haka duk abin da suke so bakin gwargwado inda aka ce ana so makaranta za su tuno daga can ko ta zo da kanta ko kuma ta tuno da shi ana so a musu kaza je a musu abin da aka ce ana musu ta zo ta gaya min Allah zan mata zai bakin iyakar ina ai mata karshe da barin rayuwa da yake kasan shi kun muƙaddari ne yawa diya da Allah so da kai haka ke zama saboda haka duk abin da Allah ya duk abin da kaga Allah ya maka to karba haka nan kawai ka bar shi haka nan shi ka roki Allah abin Allah sa shi ya zama alheri gare ka haka nan.
Babban guri na kuma abin da kullum ke ciman tuwo a ƙwarya bai wuce irin yawan barace-barace da irin masu bukata ta musamman suke yi ba. Duk da dai na san mafi yawan maza ke yin hakan ba abu ne mai dacewa ba, ana kallon su suna yin wayannan barace-barace.
Aisha Zanna Mustafa is an activist campaigning for education for people with disabilities and less privileged in northern Nigeria. Aisha says people with disabilities need special care, including free education.
You know, it's a social problem that has been an age-long issue. It's not just in Nigeria, it is in most developing countries. And it is a serious concern to well-meaning Nigerians because street begging has been on the rise for a whole while now. And it is actually seen also as a, as a global problem. Whenever you look at Nigerian schools, we don't have a lot of schools for people with disabilities. Even if they reach the secondary school students, because I've seen one of the school for the deaf, blind, and it's in Kuje in Abuja.
Yes.
And yeah, I have been able to visit the school once or twice in my life, and you could see we don't have a lot of schools like that in Nigeria. And you can imagine for them who cannot go to a normal class to learn, what do you expect them to do? And another thing is that the government must make sure that people who are made dependent by severe disability and other special needs categories have opportunities to achieve a standard of living equal to that of fellow citizens. Because when you look at it, people with disabilities have really, really low opportunities to even get, to get standard of living, work and everything. And to prevent begging of any form, Nigerian government should actually take measures against, malnutrition, environmental pollution, poor hygiene, inadequate prenatal and postnatal care. When you talk about all this, you could see that those are the main causes of trachoma. It is very important for people with disabilities to have free education because, most of them don't have the financial independence to gain education or to access education. It is our own path, and I really implore the Kano government for creating, a free educational system for people with disabilities. You could see that that's a step forward, and for Katsina, I would implore them to have, to create one, because it's not even just in Katsina, Maiduguri, Adamawa, Benue, not even just in the north, the whole of Nigeria. People with disabilities face a lot, and they cannot go to normal schools. So it's important to give them free education. Because even if you look at, education, schools that even treat people with disabilities, you see, it's very, very expensive. And for somebody who is living sometimes hand to mouth, how can they provide education for themselves? Even if they have parents, you understand, and people who could help them, it's very expensive for them to go to those schools. And it's very, very important for the government to actually change that and provide, as I said, free education to all.
To na haka muna da irin sana'o'i da yawa waɗanda suka dace gwamnati a ce da ma masu hannu da shuni sun tallafa mana ana koyar da mu. Sannan kuma kamar yanayin karatunmu, na ji daɗi da kai min wannan tambaya. Akwai jihohi irin Kano haka, mafi yawanci masu bukata ta musamman ɗinsu ma karatunsu a kyauta yake. Saɓanin mu kuma a nan duk wata gwagwarmaya da wani zai je mu masu komai namu sai an cika shi. To ina roƙo ga gwamnati mu ma kamar yadda wasu jihohin suke ta yi koyi da haka, ta tallafa ma ire-irenmu domin mutane da yawa ba ni kaɗai ba, an gama sakandare ɗin ba damar da za a je a ci gaba.
Rahila loves reading and writing fiction stories. Her ambition is to become a journalist.
To gaskiya a lokacin da muna makaranta, a lokacin idan ya zo katon yara da shirme sosai haka, tun ina ma firamare akwai wadda muke yi tare da ita ma tana rubuta, ni ma ina rubuta. To a lokacin saboda tsoro kada malamai su gano ko idan an ba mu fefa muna almubazaranci da ita ko kuma makamancin haka, sai in mun dawo hostel sannan sai mu rubuta, sai mu ba ma 'yan tsakaninmu nan haka sai a karanta, da haka nan dai da haka nan muke rubuta shi. Sannan kuma zan iya ina da wasu haka a kaina wanda dai ban rubuta su ba, na ba da labarin su ne domin in ji ko za a ce min sun daɗi, hila ce masu a wani gidan rediyo na ji shi haka tun da mun kusa da Nijar muke. Sai na irin nuna masu jin shi ne, sai na ga ana teba labarin a lokacin, to sai kuma na ji daɗi sai na nuna masu to wasa nake masu ni na wannan ɗin shi, kuma haɗi yanzu yana cikin kaina idan har na samu dama zan iya rubuta shi har in fidda shi.
Rahila's father, Abu Bakar, says she does not face any discrimination in the family. He adds that parents who have children living with disabilities must be patient and support them in their education.
gaskiya taimakon da nake so inda zai samu kuma ita ma ta san haka nan, inda akwai wanda zai taimaka mata ta yi karatun nan, to gaskiya da na ji daɗi wanda saboda tun da dai an riga an bakin duk aka yi mu haƙari na ƙari zai samu karatun nan, samu tun duk abin da za a yi na kuɗi ne, duk abin da za a yi na kuɗi ne, to mu kuma ba ƙarfin abu, sai da kan inda an samu taimakon wanda za ta yi karatun to alhamdulillah da na ji daɗi gaskiya an ci gaba da karatun.
Mutum ya samu dama a lokacin da ya samu to ya dama ta. Karatun nan dai shine jigon kowa, kuma shine kowa ke alfahari da shi. Ilimi in kana da shi kake mutum, idan kuma ba ka da shi to babu mai kallon ka a matsayin wani abu. Ba shi kaɗai zai taimaka ma kanshi ba. Idan ya samu ya tsira da mutuncin shi tamkar ya tsira tamba da iyayen shi kenan. To idan mutum ya samu ya je makaranta ya tsaya ya abin da ya kai shi. Sannan kuma idan sun koma abin da ke sa ni farin ciki kuma in yi dariya shine bai wuce in ga an ɗauki mai fuskantar ƙalubale tamkar kowa ba wai sai mai larurar rashin gani ba, a'a kowane mai fuskantar ƙalubale. Sannan kuma a ƙarshe bai wuce yanzu kamar da na ga makaranta ba in ga na haɗu da haka 'yan makaranta, to ji na nake kamar ba wata umbani ba.
Chikungunya is becoming an increasing global health issue as it spreads across the world. It was first described in Tanzania in 1952 and for around the following 50 years was isolated and caused occasional outbreaks in Africa and Asia. In around 2005, a mutated chikungunya virus strain emerged, leading to more readily infected Aedes albopictus mosquitoes, also known as Asian tiger mosquitoes. Since then, this mosquito has rapidly spread the disease in more temperate climates where it had not previously been a problem, including Europe, the Caribbean, and North America. The name of the disease is the Kimakonde word for to become contorted, describing the stooped appearance of sufferers with severe chronic, incapacitating arthralgia. The chikungunya virus causes explosive outbreaks with high attack rates, affecting 1/3 to 3/4 of the population in areas where the virus is circulating. Chikungunya is transmitted to humans by infected Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus mosquitoes. It is primarily transmitted to people through the bite of an infected mosquito. Mosquitoes become infected when they feed on a person who already has the virus. The virus replicates in the mosquito and can then be transmitted back to a new, naive host when the mosquito next feeds. If a mosquito feeds on them during the time they have the virus circulating in their blood, the mosquito can pick up the virus and the transmission cycle begins again. It is estimated that over 3/4 of the world's population live in areas at risk of chikungunya virus transmission. Since its re-emergence, the chikungunya virus has spread throughout the tropical world and several subtropical areas affecting millions of people and has become a global public health issue. Today, transmission has been reported in over 100 countries. The areas of greatest risk for travellers are thought to be the Americas, parts of Africa, and Southeast Asia. Since the early 2000s, the disease has spread to Europe and the Americas due to viremic travellers. Chikungunya symptoms present in 2 stages, the acute stage and the chronic stage. Acute chikungunya affects up to 97% of those infected and is most often characterized by the abrupt onset of high fever of over 39 degrees Celsius and severe joint pain that typically lasts for approximately 3 to 10 days. Other symptoms may include headache, myalgia, arthritis, conjunctivitis, ocular findings, oral manifestations, nausea, vomiting, or a maculopapular rash. Chronic chikungunya, which is estimated to occur in 43% of patients, is characterized by arthralgia or joint pain and/or fatigue, with potential debilitating impact that can last from months to years. Despite low chikungunya mortality of less than 0.1%, the chronicity of arthralgias and inflammatory symptoms represent a significant burden of disease with potential long-term debilitating impact for travellers. Although anybody can be infected by chikungunya virus, the following groups at risk for severe disease or progression to chronicity have been highlighted: adults of over 45 years of age, people with chronic medical conditions, newborns infected at around the time of birth, high viral load during the acute phase, or severe immunologic response in post-viremic phase. There is no medicine to treat chikungunya. Symptomatic and palliative treatment is the only option for disease management. As there is no vaccine, prevention is focused on mosquito avoidance and personal protection measures, or PPMs, insect repellent, clothes that cover most of the body or exposed skin, bed nets, screens, and air conditioning. Chikungunya is an increasing global health threat, with 3/4 of the world population living in areas at risk of transmission, reporting in more than 100 countries, and with the potential of long-term debilitating impact in those developing chronic conditions, estimated to occur in 43% of patients.
Tôi thấy thì cái phương pháp Proyecto là phương pháp mà tự nhiên, dễ dàng duy trì cái hiệu quả hoạt động và có thể kéo dài thời gian. Nếu chúng ta mà triển khai trên một địa bàn trong phạm vi nhất định, thời gian nhất định và người dân đồng thuận giữ những cái cốc mà trứng nở thành muỗi.
Phương pháp này cũng tốt, tại vì ở khu phố 7 này nè là mấy năm về trước á, là nhiều người bị bệnh sốt xuất huyết lắm. Có năm một khu phố vậy là 10 ca lận đó. Nếu mà có được cái phương pháp này mà được lai tạo những cái con muỗi Goodwin đó là không còn bệnh sốt xuất huyết nữa, là cô cũng mừng lắm.
Phương pháp Goodwin là một cái phương pháp mà sẽ hỗ trợ cho người dân trong cái công tác phòng chống dịch bệnh sốt xuất huyết tại địa phương.
Khi tôi nghe được cái dự án Goodwin này thì riêng bản thân tôi thì trong lòng cũng phấn khởi, thấy được cái hứa hẹn tương lai của một cái dự án này.
Trong những ngày đầu triển khai thì và những cái tài liệu đã cho thấy rằng 11 nước triển khai là đã có hiệu quả, đặc biệt ở Việt Nam chúng ta trước đây từ năm 2013 ở Nha Trang. Và thực tế trong thời gian thả mũi thì theo dõi liên tục các chỉ số mũi mà mang bonga nó tăng dần theo thời gian, đặc biệt là dân đồng thuận người ta rất muốn được treo những cái cốc tại gần ở nhà để hy vọng là những mũi này dần dần thay thế để kiểm soát tình hình hải quan.
Thì mình cũng mạnh dạn rồi, mình trả lời là mình tuyên truyền với những cái họ với người địa phương đó, là nói là địa phương tôi cũng đã từng làm những như vậy đó rồi, đã thành công rồi. Như vậy là tôi cũng mạnh dạn mà nói với là mấy anh chị em ha, cô chú gì trong địa phương đó cũng dẫn theo tiếp tục giống như là địa phương của tôi đã làm.
Thì cô thấy là cái sơ tùng cuộc sống nó sẽ tươi đẹp hơn. Một mặt cô cũng động viên những người hàng xóm xung quanh là tiếp tục duy trì phòng chống.
I was unwell, the fever is too much, the headache is too much, there's pain all over. I was started on treatment. And the treatment now was, it was another hell.
जिस गांव के लोग को कुछ जानकारी का अभाव होता था, नहीं पता चल पाता था कि कालाजार क्या है, एक से दूसरे आदमी में कोई बीमारी फैलती थी। एक गांव में 10-10, 15-15 कालाजार केस निकलने लगता था।
Lo normal que nos puede dar este tratamiento es dolor en los músculos, dolor en los huesos y ya complicaciones más graves como un infarto, un daño renal o un daño hepático.
I was 14 years old, trying to study hard so that I may pass my exam. But unfortunately, I fell sick.
Leishmaniasis is a disease. It's mainly a disease of children. It's caused by a bite of a female sandfly. The school-going children, out in the dark, they will still be playing their football or sit outside, and then boom, they bite you. Once this fly bites this person will get very sick. Diagnosis is very difficult.
Mi nombre es Juliana Quintero, yo soy médica general y vivo en Medellín. Acá tanto en Latinoamérica como en Colombia el 90% de los casos de leishmaniasis es leishmaniasis cutánea. Se avergüenzan de tener la infección porque lo relacionan con pobreza, entonces va creciendo mucho la lesión y por eso es muy complicado cuando ya llegan a la consulta médica.
Visceral leishmaniasis or Kala Azar as we call it in India has been there for historical time. We have seen people living with it for so many years and they don't come forward for treatment. They have to be encouraged to come forward. A very important role is played by the local healthcare workers of ensuring patients reach the primary health center.
मैं
दरियापुर के अंतर्गत आशा फैसिलिटेटर का काम करती हूँ। गांव के लोग को शहर जाके ट्रीटमेंट करवाने में दिक्कत परेशानी आएगी। आशा की जिम्मेदारी है कि जैसे ही उन्हें पता चलता है कि मेरे गांव में किसी को 2 सप्ताह से अधिक का लंबा समय का बुखार है, उनको कोई तकलीफ है, तो हम लोग उनको मोटिवेट करते हैं कि चलिए हम आपको PHC पर दिखवा देते हैं।
Really, it affects the poorest of the poor. When we started working on it 20 years ago, the pharmaceutical industry is not interested because they are too poor to buy the medicines that will be produced, so why make medicines for them? The treatments that we are using were themselves toxic.
When I got the first injection, I thought this is now the real death. They told me that this treatment is going to take 30 days. On the 5th day, I was brought to Kacheliba to continue with the 25 injections which were remaining by then. My mom was worried so much because the little resources she had, she used in taking me to the hospital. I finished my injections in March.
Hubo una vez que le aplicaban a uno esas inyecciones ahí, entre la herida, y eso duele mucho.
Lo que más los afecta a ellos es que deben ir hasta el hospital local o incluso hasta Medellín para recibir un tratamiento.
Gente que están a 6 horas para llegar al pueblo y no tener a dónde llegar a Medellín.
Tenemos medicamentos que usamos desde hace 70 años o más para tratar esta enfermedad y ya no es tan rural, ya está llegando mucho la infección a áreas urbanas debido a ese cambio climático e incluso está llegando a municipios que antes nunca se había presentado la leishmaniasis. Un tratamiento adecuado es un gran reto que tenemos.
The patients with leishmaniasis suffer in silence, but then you get someone like Luke, who's been treated, and now he has his voice, and he's a voice for the others.
I finally ended up being the nursing officer in charge of the same facility where my life was saved. One thing that is showing me that there is some light at the end of the tunnel is the kind of research that is being conducted right now, courtesy of DNDi at my facility. We are really working hard to achieve oral treatment.
काला जर के इलाज में आज से 15 साल पहले जो इलाज होता था वो 30 दिन का होता था। 30 दिन मरीज को रखा जाता था हॉस्पिटल में ही, 1 दिन बीच करके उसका इलाज किया जाता था। उसके बाद इसमें बदलाव आया, ये इलाज 10 दिन का होने लगा। ये भी काला जर के इलाज में बदलाव आया। अब बहुत अच्छा है कि 1 दिन में ही मरीज का इलाज करके उसको घर भेज दिया जाता है।
Because it's single dose, a patient just has to come once, but the patient still needs to come to the hospital, and it is not available in every primary health care. So an oral treatment is the simplest solution.
When we started in 2003, we quickly embraced everyone who was working on leishmaniasis.
Every partner has a role to play, especially if we talk about disease elimination. When we all work together, we save lives.
DNDi ha estado al lado mío desde que tuve contacto con leishmaniasis. Mi primer ensayo clínico fue un ensayo clínico que hice en conjunto con el DNDi. Si yo pudiera crearme un tratamiento ideal para mis pacientes con leishmaniasis, sería un tratamiento que ellos puedan aplicarse en su casa, que no tenga efectos secundarios a nivel sistémico, que no les impida continuar trabajando porque eso no les afectaría la calidad de vida.
The future is bright. India is working very hard together with partners to bring new treatments to be a game changer.
काला जार का सबसे बेहतर उपाय और ये भी हो सकता है कि मरीज को वहाँ तक जाना ही ना पड़े और आशा वहाँ से दवा ले आके मरीज को फील्ड में ही अवेलेबल करा दे।
My hope is that Kala-Azar patients, in whichever part of the world they are, they have access to affordable, safe, effective treatment.
I dreamt for a better treatment of leishmaniasis. It has been 32 years and my dream is about to come true.